Now we have a marathon where we're gonna go and build 60 different charts in Tableau. So we will start with very basic charts and we're gonna end up making very complex charts. And we will have different charts like bar charts, line charts, area, maps, circles and everything. But here I have to warn you, if you just sit down and watch the video, it will not help you. So here my recommendation is that you pause the video, you make the same charts and then you continue so you don't jump to the next chart without practicing with me. So let's stop talking and wasting time. Let's go and start building charts in Tableau. Alright, so now we're gonna start with the easy stuff where we're gonna build a bar chart in rows. So let's start with the big data source and let's take the subcategory to the rows, and then we need a measure. Let's take the sales and put it in the columns. And now with that we got the sales by category, and now in order to make it bigger I'm just gonna go over here. Instead of standards, let's take the entire view. And now as you can see we have bars in the rows. Tableau can use bar chart as a default, but in case you have something else you can go to the marks over here. Instead of automatic you can move it to bar. So let's go and click on that. Nothing gonna change because currently is a bar chart. And we usually use the bar chart and rows in order to make ranking. So in order to do that, let's go to the sales and sort our data. So with that we got a very nice ranking in our charts. One more thing that I usually add is the coloring. So I take the measure, the sum of sales, hold control and put it on the colors. Alright, so that's all for the bar charts and rows. Okay, the next one we have the bar charts in columns. It's very easy and very similar to the rows. I just duplicated the worksheet. So now here instead of having the dimension on the rows, we have to move it to the columns. So we have to switch between the measure and the dimension. In order to do that, it's very simple. Let's go to the quick menu over here and just switch it. So with that we got the bars now on the columns. So as you can see it's very simple. We usually use this as well for ranking. And of course now the question is when to use columns and when to use rows. If you have a dimensions with low cardinality, like here we have the subcategory, you can go and use the columns. But if your dimension has a high cardinality, a lot of values, you can go and use the rows in order to have like a long list and you can scroll down. It's always better to scroll down than to scroll to the right sides. So if you have a lot of values inside your dimension, go with the bar rows, but if you have low number of values inside your dimension, go with the column bars. Alright, moving on to another bar chart, we have the side-by-side bars. In the previous bar charts, we have used only one dimension. This time we're gonna go and use two dimensions. So let's go and build it. First, I would like to get the dimension country to the columns, and then let's go and get our measure, the sales, to the rows. So with that we got the normal bar charts. But now if you go and add another dimension to the columns, you will get side-by-side bar charts. And the second dimension gonna be the years of order dates. So drag and drop the order dates to the columns. So as you can see, Tableau did convert it to line charts. We don't want that, we want bar charts. That's why we go to the marks over here, and instead of automatic we're gonna switch it to bars. And again here I would like to make it entire view. Now we have a lot of data inside the view, so we have 5 years of data. I would like to have only two values, so I would like to compare the last 2 years. So let's drag the years to the filters, and then here I'm gonna filter using the years. So select the years, next, and let's have only the last 2 years. Click OK. And the last thing that I would like to add is the coloring. Since we have 2 years, I would like to have for each year a color. So let's take the years, hold control, and put it on the colors, and that's it. We have now really nice separations between the values. So now as you can see we got side-by-side bars, and it's really useful in order to compare multiple values in each category. So with that we can really easily compare the last 2 years in each country. And here in this type of charts, try to not have a lot of data, then it's gonna be really hard to compare data. So as you can see we just have a filter on the data in order to compare only the last 2 years. So that's it for the side-by-side charts. Alright, moving on to the next one, we have the bar chart over time. It's a very famous one. You're gonna find it almost in each dashboard. So let's see how we're gonna build it. We're gonna go to the order dates. Let's put it on the columns. And as usual, we're gonna have the years. Let's go and get our measure, the sales, and put it in the rows. And here as a default, Tableau gonna show it as a line. So let's go and switch it to the bars since we are working on the bar charts. So with that, we got very nicely the sales over the years, but we usually add more details because those data are very aggregated. So let's go and add another date dimension. In order to do that, let's just drill down the years. So click on this plus sign, and with that we got the second dimension, the quarter, and here we can see more details about how the sales are changing over the time. So the main use case of this bar chart is to show how the data are changing over time, to show trends. So if you have such a requirement, go with the bar chart over time. Okay, moving on to the next one, we have the stacked bar chart. The requirement for this one is going to be similar to the side by side. We're going to use two different dimensions. So now let's go and build it. I would like to see the total sales of each month for this year. So in order to do that, let's take the order date to the columns, and let's take the sales to the rows. And now I'm gonna go and switch the years to months. So right click on it and let's select this format, the month, so that we got those bars that represent the total sales for each month in this year. But now I would like to add more information to this view in order to compare as well the categories. So now let's go and get the categories, but here is always the question where we're gonna place it. If you put it in the columns, what you're gonna get, you will get side by side bars. We don't want that, we want to get stacked charts. In order to do that, let's take the category and put it just on the colors. So let's go and do that, and with that we got this information, this dimension as a color inside each bar, and with that we're gonna have the stacked bar chart. So now as you can see, the main purpose of the stacked bar chart is first to have the total of sales over the time, so we can compare the months and how the sales are developing over the time. Then the second task, which is not the main task, is to go and compare the categories to see how the categories are contributing in the total sales of each month. So that's all for the stacked bar chart. Alright, now we have a very similar chart to the previous one. We have the full stacked bar chart, or sometimes we call it 100% stacked bar chart. So now I just duplicated the previous one, and as you can see in the normal stacked bar charts, each bar starts and ends differently from month to month. Total sales is not really important in this chart. What is important is now to compare the subcategories over the time. And a very nice way in order to do that is to have full stacked bar. That means each bars in our visualizations can has exactly the same length, and it starts from 0% to 100%. So in order to do that, let's go to the sum of sales, right click on it, and then let's go to the quick table calculations and have the percent of total. So with that we got the percent of total instead of the total sales as a value, but we're still not there because those bars are not having the same length. In order to do that, let's go back to the sum of sales, right click on it, and let's go to edit table calculations. So let's go inside, and now what we're gonna do over here, instead of having table across, we're gonna have specific dimension. So let's go and switch on that, and we're gonna select only the category since we are focusing only in the category. So let's remove month of the order date, and now as you can see we get immediately a full stacks. So let's go and close this. So now as you can see, all those bars has exactly the same length, and they all start with the 0% and end up with the 100%. And we call this type of chart as part to whole. That means I would like to see and understand how each category are relate to the whole sales of each month. So now let's quickly summarize when to use which chart. If you want to focus on comparing the categories over the times, then go with the full 100% stacked bar charts. But if it's more important to show the total sales of each month, then compare the categories, then go with the normal stacked bar charts. Alright, moving on to the last type of bars, we have the small multiple bar charts. Many bar charts inside our visualizations, and we can do that by adding more than 2 dimensions. So let's start with the first dimension. We're gonna go to the countries from the data pane. Let's put it in the columns. And with that we got the values of the countries as columns. I would like now to add rows from the category. So let's get the second dimension, the categories, to the rows, and now I would like to fill those informations in order to see some data. So let's go and get our measures, the sales. drag and drop it to the rows over here. So now as you can see, our bars are not really small, so still we have big bars inside our view, and always we can go and check how many marks or how many bars do we have inside our view. By checking this information over here, we can see that we have 12 marks. So now let's go and get our third dimension. It's gonna be the order dates. So let's get the order date to the columns, and now we went from 12 to 60 marks or 60 data points. Now Tableau switch it to lines. I would like to bring it back to bars, so let's go to the marks, switch it to bars, but still our bars are not really mini or small. So in order to go more in details inside our view, instead of using the years, we're gonna go with the month. So let's go and change the format, right click on it, and let's choose this format, the continuous one, the month. So now if you check again, we went from 60 to 707 marks. Mini bars inside our view. I would like to add as well some colorings to it. Let's go and get the country to the colors. So that's it. With that, we got small multiple bar charts. As you can see, as you are adding more dimensions to the view, you are splitting the measure to more and more details. Okay, next we have the bar in bar chart. Previously we have compared two dimensions inside our view, but now how about to compare two measures in our views using bars? So let's see how we can do that. As usual, we're gonna take our subcategory to the rows, and then let's take the first measure. It's gonna be the sales to the columns. So now with that, we got our standard bar charts. Let's go and sort it by the sales. Now we need our second measure. So let's go and take the quantity and put it as well in the columns. So now with that, we got individual axes for each measures, and we can go and compare the data. But it's way more better if you have two measures and you want to compare them, is to use the dual axis, as we learned before in the previous tutorial. So let's go and use the dual axis. We're gonna go to the quantity, right click on it, and let's go to the dual axis. Now here Tableau did decide to go with other visualizations since we have automatic. Instead of that, I would like to switch it back to bars, and as you know, in the dual axis we will get different tabs inside our marks. So now since both of them gonna be bars, we're gonna go to all and then select, instead of automatic, we're gonna have the bars. But now as you can see, we are not there yet. It's like the stacked bar, but actually it's not stacked. So in order to change that, what we're gonna do, we're gonna go for each individual measure and change the setup. But first I would like to change the coloring. I don't like those current informations. So let's go to the quantity, make it orange. The sales gonna be blue. That's it, okay? So now what we're gonna do in order to have bar in bar, we're gonna go and change the size of the quantity. So let's go to quantity over here, go to the size, and just make it a little bit smaller. So now we can see in the background the big blue bar, and in the front we have this small orange bar. So with that, we got something like bar in bar chart, which is really great in order to compare two measures using dual axis. So here, for example, if you check the category art, you can see that the quantity is really huge, but we are generating very few sales compared, for example, to the copiers. We have less quantity that is ordered, but we have huge sales. So it's really nice way in order to compare measures. Alright, the next one is going to be a fun one where we're going to create barcode charts. We usually use it in order to show more details inside each bar. So let's see how we can do that. As usual, we're going to get the same informations, subcategories to the rows and sales to the columns. I think you already got it. Let's go and sort it. And now what I would like to bring is a dimension with high cardinality, like the product name. So let's go and bring it, for example, to the rows over here. As you can see, Tableau is warning us and telling us there is a lot of members inside the product name. And now if you go and say, okay, add all members, what's gonna happen? The view gonna be broken and it's not really informative. But instead of that, we can take the product name and put it on the details. So let's go and do that. And now with that, we have built something like barcodes where we have the product informations inside each bars, which is sometimes useful to show all those details in one view. So that's how you build barcode charts. Alright, so now we're gonna start talking about the line charts in Tableau. They are very basics and very standards in order to show the change over time. So now let's go and build very simple line chart in Tableau. Since we are saying change over time, that means we need a date. Let's go and get the order dates to the columns, and in the rows we need our measure, sum of sales. So now as a default, as usual, Tableau gonna show the years, but instead of that, in order to make it more interesting, we're gonna go and switch it to months. So let's go and change the format to month continuous, so click on that. And now with that we got our line charts. And if for some reason at your end you are not getting line charts, in order to switch it to line charts we go to the marks, and then instead of automatic let's go and choose the line. So once you do that you will get exactly like by me a line chart. So this is the most basic line chart in Tableau that shows the changes over time. Okay, so next I would like to show you the different visuals that we can add to our line. So for that, let's get more measures to our view. So currently we have the sum of sales. Let's get everything like the discount, the profits, and we have already the sales. Let's take the unit price and as well the orders. So now, as you know, since we have 5 measures in our view, we get as well 5 tabs in the marks in order to individually set up the visual. So for the sum of sales, we're going to leave it as it is as a standard line chart. But for the next one, what I'm going to do, we're going to change the path or the visual of the line. So if you go over here on the path and click on it, we will get different types of lines. So the first one going to be the standard one, the linear, but the second one going to be a step. So let's go and select that. So now if you check the discount over here, we don't have a linear charts like the sales. We have now like steps, like it's jump up and then we have steps down. Alright, so let's move next to the profit over here. So let's switch the tab to the profit. So now we're gonna go again to the path, and here we have 2 sections, the line type and the line pattern. So in the line pattern we have the solid line, or we can make a dashed line. So let's go and select the dashed line, and as you can see now in the visuals we have very nicely a dashed line in Tableau. So this is one more way in order to present the lines in Tableau. Let's move to the next one. To the next measure, we have the unit price. Let's switch there. And now what we can do over here, for each data point that we have in the chart, we can make a marker or like small circle. So in order to add the markers, what we're going to do, we're going to go to the colors over here, and then here we have the effects. So the first one is automatic, the second one to have marks, and the last one to have no marks. So let's go and switch everything to marks. And now with that you can see the line chart in the unit price has like small circles, small data points. So this is one more visual effect on the lines in Tableau. Let's move to the last one, the count of the orders. So let's switch there. Now what we can do, we can change the size of the lines depends on the values. So in order to do that, let's take the count of orders. So with control, drag and drop it and put it on the size. So now if you take the last line, we're gonna see a really nice effect. If the values are small, we will have a thin line, but if the values are high, we will get like a heavy line, which is really looks nice. Alright guys, so as you can see, Tableau is very rich in the visualizations, and with few clicks we can change the visual representations of the lines. Alright, now we're gonna build the multiple line chart in Tableau. I'm always duplicating the sheets in order not to build everything from scratch each time. So now previously in the standard line, we can see the changes over time, but sometimes we want to add more informations. We want to compare the values of one dimensions inside this view, and we can do that by having multiple lines. So let's say that I would like to compare the values inside the category. So let's go to the categories in our products, and now let's put it on the colors. So drag and drop it to the colors, and as you can see, by doing that, Tableau gonna go and plot 3 lines for each value inside this dimension. So with that, we got multiple lines inside one view, and now we can see that it's not really informative because we have a lot of lines and a lot of zigzags. In order to reduce that, we're gonna switch the format to, let's say for example, a quarter. So now it's a little bit more clean in order to see how the data are changing over time, and you can compare the values of one dimensions. So the number of lines really depend on the values inside this dimension. One more thing about how to create those 3 lines, you don't have to have it always on the colors. If you move the category from the colors and put it on details, you're gonna get the same effect where Tableau gonna go and create multiple lines for each value, but this time without colors. So this is another method on how to create different lines in Tableau, but I think it makes more sense to have it on the colors, to have separate color for each line. So this is how you can create multiple lines in Tableau using dimension. Alright, the next one we're gonna have dual line charts. This time we're gonna go and compare two different measures in one view. So we're going to create for each measure one line. So now I'm going to stick with the same view where we have the sum of sales and the quarter for the order dates. So now we'd like to compare in this view two measures, the sum of sales and the profit. So let's take the profit and put it side by side by the sales. And with that, we got two different lines for each measures, but I would like to have it on top of each other's. So in order to do that, we're going to go and use the dual axis. So let's go to the profit, right click on it, and here we have the option of dual axis. So with that, as you can see, it's very simple. We got a dual line charts, and here you can add more stuff. For example, you can go and synchronize those two axes by going to the profit, right click on it, and here we can go and synchronize it. Or of course, we can go and set up each line differently. So let's go to the profit over here, go to the path, and let's make it a dashed line. So as we learned previously, using the dual axis, we got the freedom of changing the visual of each measures individually, and this is a really great way in order to compare two measures. Okay, moving on to the next one, we have the cumulative line charts. So currently in the standard line charts, we are using the month and the sum of sales, and we can see the total sales for each month. But sometimes we would like to understand how the things are developing or growing with the time. So now if we want to see the growth over time, we have to use a cumulative line chart. In order to do that, we're going to go to the sum of sales, and instead of having sum of sales as aggregate functions, we're going to go and create quick table calculations to have the running total. So let's go and switch that, and as you can see, we're going to get very nicely cumulative line charts where you can see how the things are growing over the time. But of course, to make things more interesting, we're going to add more information to our view. So let's go and get the category and generate different lines. So we're going to drop it on the colors. And now we can see how the different categories are growing over the time. And what we can add as well to the cumulative line is the ending point of each line. So in order to do that, we're going to go to the marks, to the labels. So click on the labels, show mark labels. But now as you can see, we have for each month one label. We don't want that. We want only the ending of each line. So in order to do that, we're going to switch it from all to line end. So now if you check our lines, you can see at the start and at the end, we have these informations. But the starting point is not really interesting, so we can go and disable it. So label start of line, let's go and disable it. And with that, we're going to have the total sales of each category at the end of the line. So with that, we can go and analyze the growth over time for each category. Okay, so now we're going to go and create small multiple line charts as we done for the bar charts. We're going to do it now for the lines. So now what we're going to do, we're going to bring like at least 3 dimensions to the view in order to break down the sales to smaller lines. So let's go and do that. We're going to get, as usual, the order date to our view. Let's get the sum of sales to the rows. And then we're going to get another dimension, the category, to the rows as well. So as you can see now, as we are adding more dimensions, we are splitting the lines. Let's go and get the countries and put it as well to the columns. So now with that, we got more charts, but Tableau gonna show it as bars since we have it as automatic. So let's go and switch it to lines. And now we have it as a discrete line. Instead of that, let's get a continuous line. In order to do that, let's go to the dates and switch it to something like the month as continuous. So let's change the format. And with that, as you can see, we get very interesting multiple line charts. And I would like to add the colors as well. So let's go and get the country, for example, and add it to the colors. And now just to enhance the visual, let's go and remove the grid. So right click over here and then let's go to formats. Then we're going to go over here to the lines and then we have the row tab. So let's go to the grid lines and move to none. So with that, we have removed those grid lines, which is really annoying to have a lot of them. And then the last thing that we can do is that we can have the total sales of the last point. In order to do that, let's get the sum of sales, hold Control and put it to the labels. And then we're going to go to the labels over here and let's select min max. We're gonna have it by the order date. So let's switch from automatic to month and let's have only the maximum value. So let's remove the minimum value. So with that, we got for each chart like the total sales for the last month. So with that, we have created very nice small multiple line charts in Tableau. Alright, moving on to the next one, we have the highlighted line charts in Tableau. This is especially important if you have multiple lines in one single view, and there are different methods on how to do it. I'm gonna show a quick one and a professional one. So let's start with the quick one. Let's have multiple lines in our charts. I'm gonna take this time the country and put it on the colors. So with that, we got a one line for each value inside the country dimension. And now I would like to give the ability for the users to highlight one of those values. In order to do that, it's very simple. Go to the country over here, right click on it, and let's go to the highlighter. So here we have the option of show highlighter. Click on that. So with that, if you check the right side, we're gonna get small box in order to highlight the values inside the countries. So the users can go over here and select one of those values, for example Germany, and as you can see, Tableau gonna go and highlight the line of Germany, and it's gonna blur or other lines. So this is really nice way in order to go and highlight different values in Tableau in order to focus on one value. So this is really great way in order to go and highlight one line, especially if you have a lot of multiple lines. So that was it. This is how you can create quickly a highlighted line chart in Tableau. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the second method on how to create highlighted line chart, but this time more professionally. So now I just duplicated the old line chart where we have the quarter, sum of sales, and the countries on the colors, but this time we're going to get rid of this highlighter, so I'm just going to go and remove it. So now we have to give the users a list of all countries in order to select, and this selected country going to be highlighted in the view. So in order to do that, we're going to go and create a parameter. So let's go to the data pane, right click over here, then create a parameter. So here we're going to give it a name, select country. Since the country values are string, the data type gonna be as well a string. And now next we're gonna go and create a list of all countries that we have inside the dimensions. So here we have 4 values. We have France. Be careful that you have exact case. So the first character is capitalized and the rest is small. So we have Germany, Italy, and the last one is USA. So that's it for our parameter. Let's go and hit OK. So with that, we get our new parameter on the left side. Right click on it and show parameter in order to see it here on the right side. Now the users can go over here and select one of those countries. But as you can see, nothing is changing in the view because we haven't connected yet to our view. Now, in order to connect it to our view, we have to go and create a new calculated field. So let's go to the data pane again, create calculated fields. Let's call it highlighted country. And here we can have a very simple condition where we're going to say country equal our parameter. So our parameter is going to be select country. So here what we are saying is that if the selected country from the parameters equals to the value of the country, then we're going to have true, otherwise it's going to be false. So for example, now we have the value France selected in the parameter. That means the country France gonna be true and all other countries gonna be false. Let's go and hit OK. So now we're gonna go and work highlighting the selected country. In order to do that, let's start with the coloring. So currently we have the coloring on the country. I'm gonna go and move it to the details. So that means now the countries are just creating the lines and not responsible for the coloring of the lines. Now in order to bring the coloring, we're gonna get our new calculated field, the highlighted country, and let's put it on the colors. So now we can see that we have only 2 colors because we have false and true. So if it's true, it's going to be orange. If it's false, it's going to be blue. But I would like to change those colorings to do the highlight effect. So let's go to the colors, edit colors. False going to be gray and the true going to be, let's say, for example, the blue. Let's hit OK. So now we get like a highlight effect. All other lines are gray and only the one that we selected is going to be blue. But now let's go and test our parameters. So we have here France selected currently. Let's select Germany, and as you can see now that selected line gonna be Germany. Let's take Italy and USA. So now as you can see, our parameter now is working. So now here we have a little bit issue where the highlighted line is behind the gray lines. So in order to switch that, I would like to have the highlighted in the front and the gray in the back. We're just gonna go to the legend over here. If you don't have it, you can go to the analyzes, and then here we have the option of the legends, and make sure to select the colors. So currently it's selected by me. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna switch those 2 values. So let's take the true and put it on top. So with that, we have sorted those 2 values, and as you can see in the charts, the blue color in the front and the gray color in the back. And now the next step in order to create this highlight effect in Tableau is that we're gonna change the size. In order to do that, we're going to use our new calculated field. So the highlighted line, drag and drop it on the size by holding Control. And now with that, we got different size for the highlighted line compared to the others, but here we have the opposite effect. But we don't want that. We want the rest going to be thin and the highlight going to be heavy. So in order to do that, let's go to the legend over here, just double click over here. And now as you can see, the true is thin, the false is heavy. In order to switch it, we're going to go to reversed. Let's click on that and hit OK. So with that, you can see the highlighted line is way heavier than the rest. You can change the size if you don't like it like this. So we can reduce a little bit the sizing and it's going to be now more nice. Alright, so that's all on how to create highlighted line in Tableau more professionally than the previous one, where you have more control on the sizing and the coloring. The users can go over here and start changing the value, and with that we are highlighting one line compared to the others. So that's it. Alright, next we have a fun one where we're going to build a pump chart using lines in order to do ranking between different values. So now, for example, I would like to rank the countries over time. In order to do that, we're going to have the same view where we have the quarter and the sales, and we have a line. So now the first thing that we're going to go and grab the country and put it on the colors in order to create those different lines. And now since the analysis is about the ranking, not the total sales, in order to build that, we're going to go to the sum of sales over here, and we're going to go and create a quick table calculations. Here we have the rank function. So let's go and select that. So now we have a ranking that depends on the whole table or on the whole view. I don't want that. I would like to rank between only 4 values. So in order to do that, let's go to the sum of sales over here, right click on it, and let's edit the table calculations. So let's go inside, and now instead of having table across, I'm gonna go and specify a dimension. So now we would like to have a ranking only using the country. So we're gonna have only 4 values. I'm just gonna go as well and deselect the order dates. So let's go and close this. So now we have some kind of effect of the pump chart, but we are not there yet. As you can see, the ranks like starts from the bottom to top. I would like to reverse it. In order to do that, right click on the axis, edit the axis, and then let's reverse. So that's all. Let's close this. As you can see, now we have the top rank at the top, and then the bottom we have the lowest rank. So now in order to have this pump effect, we have to have like circles inside our visual. We can do that very easily if you go to the... So now in order to have the pump effects, we have to have lines. We have it already, but as well we have to have circles on the data points. There is one easy way in order to do that. Let's go to the colors and change the markers to circles. So now as you can see, we got our small circles on each data point and we get the pump effects. But now sometimes we go more advanced in these charts where we can make our own customizations for those circles, where we want to make those circles, those data points, a little bit more bigger, and inside it the rank. So now in order to do that, let's first hide those small circles. We don't want that. So let's go to the colors and just have a line without markers. Now in order to have circles, we have to have the same measure again in our view. So let's take the sum of sales, hold Control, and put it on the right side. So with that, we got 2 charts for each measure. Let's go to the second one, to the sum of sales over here, and instead of having lines, let's move it to circles. So switch the marks here to a circle. So as you can see, now we got very nicely those circles, and now we can go and change the size of those circles. Alright, so that looks nice. Now the next step is that we're gonna go and put it on top of each other's, and we can do that using the dual axis. So let's go to the sum of sales on the right side, right click on it, and let's select the dual axis. So now with that, you have very nicely those circles on top of our line, but the colors are not correct yet because those 2 axes are not synchronized. So let's go to the right side, right click on it, and synchronize axis. So now we got those circles perfectly in our lines. I would like to hide the right axis, so right click on it, and let's hide the header. So now the next step, we can go and add numbers on those circles. So I'm gonna stick with the second measure on those circles. Let's go to the labels and show label. And the next step, I would like to add those numbers inside the circle. So go to alignment over here, and then the vertical, and let's make it to the center. So with that, we got those numbers inside the circles, and we can go as well and change the coloring and the font over here. Let's make it white. And now with the next step, I would like to go and change the sizing again of those circles. So let's make it it a little bit bigger until it looks nice. Alright, so that's enough, and with that we got a really professional pump chart, and we are controlling the size of those circles. So now we can go and very nicely check the ranks of those countries. As you can see, France was in the first data points, the rank number 1, then it dropped to 2, then 3, then back to 1, and we can see the development of those sales between countries. And we can see very nicely that Italy is always the lowest rank in the sales in our business. Alright, so this is how we can create pump chart in Tableau. Alright, so now we're gonna learn how to create Sparkline Chart in Tableau. Sparkline charts are really like compact visuals in order to show the trends, the changes over time, and you're gonna find it in a lot of dashboards in order to show KPIs. So now let's see how we can create that. It's really simple. So now we're gonna take a dimension like the country and put it in the rows in order just to split those lines to smaller size. So now in the Sparklines, it's very important to have the informations of the sales at the start and at the end of each line. So let's go and do that. Let's take the sum of sales, drag and drop it to the labels over here, holding control. So now we have the information of sales on each quarter in each data point. We don't want that. So let's go to the labels over here. And now let's go to the min and max. Let's go select that. So now we can see that we have for each line two values, the minimum and the maximum. But here it depends really on the sum of sales. So instead of that, I would like the min and max depends on the value of the order dates. So let's go and switch that. We're gonna go to the field over here. Instead of automatic, let's select the quarter. So now as you can see with that, we got exactly our spark lines. We have the starting value and the end value of each line. But now usually the sparks lines are really compact visuals. They are really small lines. In order to change that, let's switch from entire view to standard. And now we're gonna go very carefully to the end of our axis until we get the resize of our mouse. Then now let's go and completely reduce it. So with that we got our compact lines. I would like as well to remove those lines in our chart. So right click on it over here and go to format. And then here on the left side, we're gonna go to the lines. We are at the rows, so I would like to remove those rows. So make sure to select the rows tabs, and removing those grid lines, we're gonna go over here and select none. And with that, we got really clean spark lines without any grids. And as well, we can go and hide those informations about the sales. So let's go right click on it and show header. Let's disable it. So that's it. Now I'm happy with that. We got a very nice Sparkline chart in Tableau, and as you can see, they are compact visuals in order to quickly identify trends, which we usually use it inside KPIs. Alright, so now we're gonna go more advanced on building visualizations in Tableau. We can learn how to create Barbell charts in Tableau. Barbell charts are really amazing in order to compare two data points and find the differences between them. It's like before and after, and it works perfectly if you have categories. So now we would like to compare 2 years, 2021 and 2022, by the categories. So now let's start first with taking the subcategory, not the category, in order to have more values. And now next we need two measures, the first one for the year 2021 and the second for 2022. In order to do that, we have to go and create a new calculated field. So let's go to the data pane, click over here, create a new calculated field. And now I'm gonna call the first one sales 2021, and the formula is gonna be very easy. So we're gonna use the if condition, if the order dates, but now we are talking about the year of order date. So let's move it to year. So if the year of the order dates equals to 2021, so now what can happen if the condition is correct? We're gonna show the sales. So then sales, and otherwise it's gonna be null. So that's it. Let's go and end it. So now in this calculated field, we will get the sales only if the year is 2021. Let's go and copy it because we need it for the next one. So that's it. Then hit OK. And with that, we got in the data pane a new calculated measure for the sales 2021. Let's go and create for the next year. It's going to be the sales of 2022. Paste the same calculation, but now we're gonna say if the year is 2021, then show the sales. So that's it. Let's hit OK. So with that, we got our second measure for the sales of 2022. Now we want to compare both of those sales in our view. So let's take the sales of 2021 to our columns. And now in the Barbell chart, we're gonna have like two circles and between them a line in order to find the differences. So first, let's start with the circles. Instead of having bars, we're gonna go to the mark marks over here and change it to circle. So with that, we got in our view the first circle for the year 2021. What is missing now is the second circle. So in order to do that, we're gonna go and get our sales 2022, move it to the axis in order to generate the measure values and measure names. So just drag and drop it over here. And now with that, we got our second point. So the first one, the blue one, is for 2021 and the second one is 2022. Alright, so with that, we have built the first part of the Barbell Chart where we have the starting point and the end point. So now in order to show the differences or the distance between those two values, we have to have a line chart between them. So that means we need now another type of chart inside our view. In order to do that, we're gonna go and duplicate the measure values. So hold Control, drag and drop it and just put it beside it. So now with that, we have the same data on the left and on the right. On the right, we're gonna have now different visual. So instead of circles, we're gonna have a line. So let's go to the tab over here on the marks to the second one. And now we're gonna go and change the visual from circle to line. So with that, we got our lines, but we are not there yet. I would like to have a distance between two values. In order to do that, we're gonna take our measure name from the colors and we're gonna go and put it on the path. So drag and drop it on the path. And with that, we got exactly what we want. We have now like a line between 2 points. Alright, so now the final step is that we're gonna go and merge those two charts in one. So in order to do that, as we learned, we're gonna use the dual axis. So let's go to the measure values over here on the right side, right click on it and dual axis. Let's select that. So now we got a perfect line to show the distance, the difference between the starting point and the end point. But now we have small issues in the visuals. I would like to make those circles a little bit bigger. So let's switch to the circles and go to the sides over here and make it a little bit bigger. Alright, so that's enough. And now as you can see, the line is on top of the circles, which is not really correct. In order to make it in behind, we have to go and switch the order of those dual axes. So let's take the right and put it on the left. Alright, so with that, we got a perfect Barbell chart in Tableau, and we can go and analyze the differences between two data points between the sales of 2021 and 2022, and we have this very nice line in order to indicate the distances between them. So you can see, for example, in the envelopes, there is no change on the sales between those 2 years, but if you go to the phones over here, you can see a huge change on the sales between those 2 years, and in the visuals, it really indicates those informations. So that's it. This is how you create and why we create Barbell charts in Tableau. Alright, so now we're gonna go and build rounded bar charts. Previously, we have learned how to build bar charts, standard ones, but now we're gonna go advanced and build rounded bar charts, and we will use lines in order to do that. I know it sounds a little bit strange, but let's go and build that. First, we're gonna go and get, as usual, the subcategories in order to make a rank. And I'm gonna stick with the entire view in order to have the whole view over here. Then let's go and get the sum of sales to the columns over here. So now as you can see, this is very nice standard bar charts. So now instead of having those classical bars, we're gonna have rounded edge bars at the start and at the end. So how we're gonna do that? We're gonna go and have like a dummy value, average of the 0. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna go and merge those two measures in one single axis. So in order to do that, let's drag the average and put it on top of the sales over here in order to generate the measure values and names. So now we're gonna go and convert the bar chart to a line chart. So let's go to the marks over here to the line. And then what we're gonna do, we're gonna take the measure name and put it on the path. So now we are almost there. What we're gonna do, we're just gonna go and increase the size of those lines. So let's just make it bigger. And with that, as you can see, we got rounded bar chart in Tableau. And as well, we're gonna get very nice color effect if we take the measure values, hold Control, and then drag and drop it through the colors. And with that, we got really nice rounded bar chart in Tableau. Well, if you ask about now the use case, it's exactly like having standard bar charts. For example, here we can make a ranking list of the subcategories. We just change the visual of it. So that's it, how you can build rounded bar chart in Tableau. Alright guys, so now we're gonna learn how to build sloppy charts in Tableau. Sloppy charts are perfect in order to show how the ranking is changing over time for different categories. So let's see how we can do that. Since the ranking over time, that means we need the order dates. So let's go and bring the order dates to our view. Then the next step, as usual, we're gonna get our measure, the sales, to the rows. So here we want to compare the last 2 years. So in order to do that, let's go and filter the data. So show filter for the years, and let's go and select the last 2 years. So now we have to decide which category you want to compare. You can go for the product categories, we can go with the countries. So let's go and pick the country and put it on the details. So now the next one, I'm gonna go and just make it a little bit bigger in order to compare those 2 years. The next step is that we're gonna go and put the category or the country on the names. So let's control on the country and drop it on the labels. So now we can see the country name on the end of each labels, but I would like to have it as well at the start in order to get the sloppy chart. So let's go to the labels. So now what we have to do is to put the labels at the line ends. So instead of having all, let's switch it to line ends and let's close it. So now we can see that each line starts with the country name and ends as well with the country name. And now the last step is that we want to add for each line like small circle. In order to do that, as we learned before, we go to the colors and we put the markers. So now we have a small circle at the start and at the end of each line, and this is the easiest way in order to build sloppy chart in Tableau. So again, the use case of the sloppy chart is that we can see how the ranks are changing over the time. So in 2021, you can see France first as a first, then USA, Germany, and the last was Italy. And now we can see the change over time. In the 2022, Germany went from place number 3 to be place number 1, and then France moved to number 2, USA moved to number 3, and as you can see, Italy, nothing's changed. So this is the power of the sloppy chart in order to see how ranking are changing over the time. And of course, in Tableau, we can go more advanced where we add more complicated stuff in order to have more customizations. For example, you say, you know what, I would like to have bigger circles. So in order to do that, we have to have 2 charts, one for the line and one for the circles. Let me show you how we can do that. Let's take the sum of sales, hold Control and duplicate it. So the first one gonna be the lines and the second one gonna be the circles. So let's go and switch for the second measure, and instead of automatic, we're gonna select here the circle. It's too way big for our visual. Let's go to the size over here and just reduce it in order to have smaller circles and as well a little bit more. So that's it. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna bring those 2 charts in one. So let's go and merge it using the dual axis. So I'm gonna go to the second one over here, right click on it, and then let's go to the dual axis. Then if you look closely, those axes are not 100% synchronized. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna right click over here and then synchronize the axes. So now we got the circles exactly in the place that we need. So since we have 2 axes that have the same information, I'm gonna go and hide one of them. So let's go and disable the show header. And now you got the full customizations of the chart. You can say, you know what, for the lines, I would like to have another color. For example, let's have a gray color. Or you might say, let's make it a dashed line. So we go the path over here and move it to the dash line. So with that, we get full customizations on our chart. But usually for the sloppy charts, we have a solid line between. So that's it. This is how we can create sloppy chart in Tableau. Okay, so now we're gonna learn how to combine different types of charts in one single view. And here we're gonna mix the bars with the lines. There are different methods on how to do that, depending on the use case. The first one is using the average line. So first, let's go and build a standard bar line over the time. So in order to do that, let's get the order dates to the columns and as well the sales to the rows. And then let's switch the years to a continuous month. So let's change the format. And now instead of having the line, we're gonna go and switch it to bar charts. So let's go to the marks and switch it to bars. Great. So with that, we have got our bar chart. The second step is to add a line. This line gonna be the average line. In order to do that in Tableau, it's very simple. Let's go to the analytics. And here we have the option of average line. Let's go and drop it to our view. So it's gonna be for the whole table. And that's it. As you can see, it's very easy. With that, we got a nice average line combined with the bar charts. Alright, moving on to the next method, we're gonna go and combine the bars and lines using the dual axis. And here we're gonna go and compare 2 different measures. So this time as a change, we're gonna go and compare the number of orders together with the number of customers. So now let's go and get the order date in order to see the changes over time. And then the next thing, we're gonna go and get the order, the count of the orders to the rows. And now let's go and change the format of the order date to months, and then change as well the chart to bars. So with that, we got our first chart, the bar chart. Let's go and get our second measure, and we're gonna have it as a lines. In order to do that, let's go the count of the customers, put it near the rows. So with that, we splitted our view to two charts. Let's go and change the second one to lines. So we're gonna go to the marks, switch to this page, and then now instead of having bars, we're gonna switch it to line. So now we have our two charts, the bar chart and the line chart, and as usual, we want to go and merge them together in one single view. So in order to do that, we're gonna use the dual axis. Let's go to the customers, right click on it, and then choose dual axis. So with that, as you can see, we have a bar chart together with a line chart. And of course, here with the dual axis, we can go to the right side and synchronize those two axes, but for now it makes no sense. And of course, now we can add more customizations. For example, for the line, we can do the markers. So let's go to the colors over here and let's just add the markers to it. So that's it. Now we can go and start comparing the number of orders together with the number of customers in one single view using two different charts types. Okay, so now we're gonna build the bullet chart in Tableau. Here we're gonna combine again bars with lines. Bullet charts are really important in order to compare the current value with the target or compare the current year with the previous year. So now let's go and get, as usual, our subcategory to the rows. And now I would like to compare the current year with the previous year. So let's take the sales of 2022 from our data pane over here to the columns. And now let's go and sort it by the axis. So we have like a rank. And then we're gonna go and compare it to the sales of 2021. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take the 2021 to the details, and then we're gonna go and add a reference line. So let's go to the axis to the sales of 2022, right click on it, and let's add a reference line. So now let's take it a little bit to the right side in order to see those reference lines. So what we're gonna take, instead of the sum of sales 2022, we're gonna have the 2021. So let's select that. And now we got one line for the average. We don't want that. We want to have the total sales for each subcategory. So in order to switch that, we're gonna go and say instead of per pan, we're gonna have it per cell. So let's switch it. So now we got a line for each bar, which is great, but let's go and customize those informations. I don't want to see any labels. So let's go to the labels and switch it to none. And then let's go and format those lines. We're gonna go over here and let's take, for example, the orange color. And then let's go and change the transparency to 100% to have a full line. And then let's go and make it more heavy in order to see the lines. I'm just gonna go with the full. So that's it. So let's go and close this. And as you can see with that, we got very easily a bullet chart in Tableau where you can compare the current year of the bars with the lines of the previous year. So this is how you can create a very nice bullet chart by combining bars and lines. Alright, so now we're gonna learn how to create a Lollipop chart in Tableau. There are two types of that, horizontal and vertical. We can use this type of charts by combining the bars and the circles. So it's like a stick, and at the end we have a big circle, and we use the circle in order to highlight a data value. So let's go and create that. It's very simple. Let's take the subcategories to the rows, and then our measure is gonna be the sales as usual. Let's put it on the columns. So with that, we have already our bar chart. If not, then go to the marks and change it. Let's go and sort it in order to have a rank. So since it's Lollipop, we're gonna have sticks. So let's have smaller bars. Let's go to the size over here and just reduce the size. So now what is missing in the Lollipop is the end circle. So in order to make another chart, what we're gonna do, we're gonna take the sum of sales as well and duplicate it. So hold Control and just drag and drop the sum of sales. So with that, we got our two measures, and what we're gonna do next, we're gonna go and change it to circles. So let's go to the marks, to the second sum of sales, and instead of automatic, we're gonna have the circles. So now we got very nicely those circles, but they are really small. So let's go and make it bigger, little bit smaller. Alright, so maybe this is fine. So what is the next step in order to merge two charts together in one single view? As usual, we're gonna use the dual axis. So let's go to the second sum of sales, right click on it, and then let's go to the dual axis. So now as you can see, things got destroyed. We don't have any more the bars, and that's because in the first measure of the sum of sales, we didn't specify for Tableau that is bar. It was an automatic, and with that, Tableau gonna go and make guesses on the suitable suitable visual for the current data, which is something that is wrong. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to the first measure and say for Tableau, it's not automatic. We want it always to be as a bar. So let's switch it. So with that, as you can see, we have already the shape of the lollipop. We have to do some few stuff that is not a big deal. So we forgot about synchronizing the axis. So let's go to the second one, right click on it, and let's synchronize it just to make sure that everything matches correctly. And now I have those two axes that have exactly the same information. So I'm just going to go to one of them and hide those informations in order to have it only once. So now the key thing of the lollipop is that to show information at the end, at the circle. So here we can put anything, like any measure. For example, we can have the total sales or the total number of orders and so on. But in this example, I would like to have the text of the subcategory on those circles. So how we're going to do that? We're going to go to the circle over here and we're going to put in the labels the subcategory. So by holding Control and putting the subcategories on the labels. So now, as you can see, we have now the headers informations on those circles. So what we can do, we can go now and hide those informations. So right click and show header. With that, we have removed those header informations and we have now the header informations or the subcategories on the circles. One more thing that we can do, we can go and add coloring. So let's take the sum of sales and put it on the colors. So with that, we have a really nice rank chart for the subcategories. Okay, so now let's see quickly the second type. We can have a vertical lollipop chart. I just duplicated the previous one, and all what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to the quick menu over here and switch everything between the rows and the columns. Alright, so now we have everything vertical, but we have really big circles, so let's go and change that. Let's go to the second sum of sales and go to the size. Let's try to reduce stuff over here, and we're gonna reduce as well the sticks. So let's go to the first sum of sales, to the size, and as well let's try to reduce the sticks. So now it looks really nice, but still we have a problem with the labels. So let's go again to the circles, go to the labels, and we're gonna change the alignments from automatic to on top. So we're gonna go and change that. So now we have the labels on top of those circles, but still we don't have all the labels because the size of the text is really big. So let's go to the fonts over here, change it from 10 to 8. One of them is missing. You can go and reduce the size of the circles. So that's it. This is how you can create lollipop charts in Tableau. And here you can see the power of Tableau. We can go and combine different type of charts in one single view. Like here we are combining the circle with the bars. So that means we have endless amount of combinations, and this opens the innovations in Tableau where you can create amazing charts and visuals. And this is exactly the magic of Tableau. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the area charts in Tableau. They are like the line charts. We can use it in order to see how the data are changing over the time. But under the line, we're going to get a filled area in order to make it easier to visualize those numbers. So now we're going to start with a very basic area chart in Tableau. Since it is changed over time, we're going to get the order date to our view. And then as usual, we're going to get the sum of sales to the rows. And instead of year, we're going to switch it to month continuous. And now here we have it as a line because it's automatic. If you go over here to the marks, you can see we have a chart type called area. Let's go and switch it. So this is the most basic area charts that we have in Tableau. Okay, so now you might say, you know what, the basic area chart in Tableau don't have a line. And usually the area chart has a line, and between the line and the axis, we have like a filled gap. But the basic area chart in Tableau don't have this visual. In order to recreate this design, what we're gonna do, we're gonna go and create a line on top of our area charts. So here we're gonna have two types of charts, the line and the area. So let's go and create that. We're gonna take the sum of sales and duplicate it by holding Control. So now we have our two charts. The first one gonna stay as an area chart. The second one gonna be a line chart. So let's go to the second one of the sum of sales. Instead of area, we're gonna have a line. And I think you already know the next step. We have to go and merge those two charts in one single view. So how are we going to do that? Using the dual axis. So let's go to the second sum of sales, right click on it, and let's choose dual axis. And now the next step, we're going to go to the area chart and just reduce the opacity. So let's go to the colors, and now let's go and just reduce the opacity, and with that we're gonna get a perfect area chart in Tableau where you have a line, and between the line and the axis you have a field gap, which is way better than the basic area chart in Tableau. Alright, moving on to the next one, we're gonna have the stacked area charts. It's like the bar charts. We can add more information to our visualizations by adding the dimensions to the colors. So now we have the basic area chart at the start where we have the sum of sales and the month over the time. So now we're gonna go and add a dimension. Let's take the category and put it to the colors. So with that we got 3 area charts stacked on top of each other's, because inside these dimensions we have 3 values. So what we can do over here about the design, we can go to the colors over here and increase the opacity. So really that's it. This is how you can create stacked area chart in Tableau. Alright, so next we're gonna go and build full 100% stacked charts. So here, if the total of the sales is not important, but what is important is to go and compare those different categories together, we can go and use the full stack charts. So let's see how we can do that. So we're gonna go to the sum of sales and we're gonna switch it to quick table calculations, percent of total. So let's go and click on that. We are not there yet. As you can see, we have the percentage over here on the left side. We want to have it from 0 to 100. So in order to do that, we're going to go again to the sum of sales, right click on it, and let's edit the table calculations. And now what we're going to do, we're going to switch it to specific dimension, and this dimension is going to be the category. So let's deselect the month of order date and let's go and close it. So with that, you can see the area now start from 0 to 100. And you have it like one block. And now we can go and very easily compare the 3 different categories. And here we can see very clearly how each category is relating to the whole, to the total sales of each month. So this is how you can create very easily a full or 100% stack chart in Tableau. Alright, so now we're gonna go and create small multiple area charts by adding multiple dimensions. So now let's go and get the first dimension. It's gonna be the country to the columns. Let's go and get the order dates as well to the columns, and then to the rows we're gonna go and get the categories. So those are our 3 dimensions, and then I'm gonna go switch it from standard to entire view. Now let's go and get the numbers inside our view. So it's gonna be the sum of sales. Let's put it in the rows. So as a default, Tableau gonna show it as lines. Let's go and switch it to areas, to the marks. So with that we get our mini area charts in Tableau. But now let's add more details where we want to see the months. So let's go to the year over here and change the format to continuous month. So let's switch it, and then next we're gonna go and add the coloring. So let's control and drag and drop the country to the colors, and in such visualizations it makes no sense to have those grid information. So right click on it, let's go to the formats, to the lines, make sure to select the rows and then the grid line over here and make it none. So with that we have created a small multiple area charts in Tableau. It's very similar to the lines or to the bars. Okay, so now we're gonna learn how to create the scatter plots in Tableau. Scatter plots are one of the fundamental charts in order to understand the relationship between 2 continuous measures. So that means the main task of the scatter plots is to find correlations between 2 continuous fields. And as well, another task of the scatter plot is to find the outliers inside your data. So let's go now and create a very basic scatter plots in Tableau. And as I said, we need 2 measures in order to do that. So our 2 measures gonna be the sales and the profit. So let's get the sales to the columns and as well the profit to the rows. So with that we got our 2 axes, and it's gonna represent a 2-dimensional graph. So now what is missing is of course our data, the data points. So here we're gonna go with the customer ID. So let's take the customer ID and now we're gonna go and put it to the details. And here is the power of Tableau compared to any other tools, where Tableau gonna go and plot all data points that we have inside our data without any restrictions. So with that we can see the correlation between the sales and the profit, and as well to find the outliers, for example those points that we have it as a standalone. Alright, so with that we have created the very basic scatter plots in Tableau. Alright, so next we're gonna go and add more stuff to the design of the scatter plots, where we're gonna change the colors, the size, add circles, and so on. So now we're gonna go and change the size of each data point, but it's gonna depend on a third measure, the count of orders. So now let's go to the orders count and drag and drop it to the size. Each customer is gonna has different size, and that's gonna depend on how many orders did this customers place. So this is one thing that we can add to our scatter plot. Another thing, we can add coloring. So here we have different ways on how to add colorings. Either we can add a dimension or we can make a cluster. So now for example, let's go and get the dimension country and place it on the colors. And here in the data points, we can add as well different shapes in our visual. So currently we have the circle for everything. We can take the country, drag and drop it to the shapes. And now we can see in the scatter plot, not only that the countries has different colors, but they have as well different shapes. But what we usually see in the scatter plots is that each data point can be represented as a filled circle. So that means we're gonna go and change the visual. Let's go to the marks over here and then change it from shapes to circles. So now as you can see, we have everything as a filled circle, but we are not there yet. Let's go and make the size a little bit bigger. And now what do we have over here? We have a lot of points, and what we usually do, we go and reduce the opacity of the colors. So let's go to the colors over here and let's just reduce it. And with that, you can see very nicely, for example, those 2 points, there is like overlapping between them. One more thing that we can add to those circles, we can have like a line border for each circle. So in order to do that, we're gonna go again to the colors, and here we have an effect called border. So instead of automatic, let's have something like this color, the gray. So with that, you can see we have a very nice border for each data point. Alright, so those are some different options on how to customize the scatter plots. Okay, so now we're going to create the dot plot in Tableau. Dot plot is one-dimensional graph in order to see the distribution of your data between different categories, and each dot going to be representing one data point. So now let's go and see the sales by the order date, and then we're going to have the order ID as a detail. So we're going to take the order date to our rows. So now we're going to go and see the distribution of order IDs by the date. So let's take the order date to the rows this time, and let's go and change it to a month as a continuous. Then we're gonna go and get our measure to the columns, and now as a default we have it as a line. Instead of that, we're gonna go and make it as circles. So now we are not there yet, we have to add more details to the view, and that by moving the order ID to the details. So now since we have a lot of orders inside our datasets, Tableau gonna ask us, do you really want to do that? Well, yes, add all members. So now as you can see, we have a very nice dot plot. We can add more informations, like for example, let's take the category and put it to the colors. And as well, since there are like a lot of overlapping, we can go to the colors and reduce the opacity. So now with that, each data point, each circle gonna represent one order, and you can see now very clearly and very fast which orders has the most sales. So this is how you can create dot plot in Tableau. Alright, so now we're gonna learn how to build circle or bubble timeline. We usually use the circle timeline in order to analyze the changes over time, and we usually use it to show the distinct values of different circles across multiple categories. So let's see how we can build that. Since we said it is change over time, we need a date. So let's go and get the order date to the columns, and then we need one more dimension. Let's take for example the subcategories to the rows, and then we need our measure. It's gonna be the sales, but now instead of dropping it to the columns or to the rows, we're gonna drop it on the size, since each data point gonna has different size. So Tableau gonna show it as squares. Let's go and switch it to circles. And now in order to have more data points in our view, we're gonna go and switch the years. Let's take for example the quarter as continuous. So let's click on that. So now I'm gonna go and change the size of our view. I'm just gonna go to the header and make it a little bit bigger. And then we're gonna go to the axis and just make it a little bit smaller in order to have some overlapping. So now let's go to the size and increase the size or make it a little bit smaller, and then we're gonna go to the colors and reduce the opacity. And now we can add more customizations about the design. Like for example, let's take the sum of sales and put it to the colors, and then let's increase as well a little bit the opacity so it looks better. And as well, depend on how you like it, maybe you can go and add some borders. So let's go to the borders over here. I like the dark one, so maybe I'm just gonna go and make it more gray, because here you can go and customize different stuff. For example, you can go and use two measures. So for example, instead of having the sum of sales on the colors, we can go and get the sum of profit. So let's go and get the sum of profit on the coloring. So now we can see in this one chart, we can see a lot of stuff. The change over time. We can see as well the coloration between two measures in order to understand the relationship between them, where the size gonna indicate the sales and the color is gonna indicate the profit. So this is really powerful and very great analysis in Tableau using the circle timeline. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the pie chart in Tableau. It is very easy and common way in order to analyze or show the part to whole data. So let's see how we can build that on Tableau. There is like an easy way or sheeting way in order to do that. If you go to the show me over here and then click on the pie charts, we will not do that. We will create it on our own so that we understand how Tableau works. So let's not take the shortcuts. I'm just going to close it. So in order to build a pie chart in Tableau, first let's go to the marks over here, change it from automatic to a pie. So with that we get a small icon called angle, and here we're gonna go and drop our fields on top of it. So here in this example we're gonna build a pie chart from the sales and then split it by the country. So let's take the sales and put it on the angle, and with that we got our first chart. It is like a circle and it's not divided yet. Let's switch from standard to entire view in order to get a bigger pie chart. And then the next step, we're gonna go and divide this pie chart into sections. So our dimension gonna be the country. Let's go to the customers, then grab the country and let's put it on the colors. So with that, our pie is divided to multiple sections, and the size of each section can indicate the sales of the country. And this type of charts is used in order to analyze the part to whole. So for example, here we can analyze how the USA is contributing or relating to the whole of sales. So as you can see, it's really easy to build and very commonly used in many dashboards. We can go over here, for example, and add some labels and change the design, of course, of these pie charts. And one more thing that I would like to show you is that sometimes in the dashboard you can see that there are multiple pie charts in one dashboard, in one view. In order to do that, you just grab any dimensions and put it to the rows or to the columns. So for example, let's take the category and let's put it on the columns. And with that, we got immediately 3 pie charts under those 3 different categories. So this is how we usually deal with the pie charts. We have one dimension that split the pie charts and another one that is duplicating those pie charts. Alright guys, so that's all for the pie charts in Tableau. Okay, so now moving on to the next one, we have the donut chart. Donut chart is very similar to the pie chart. You still have this analysis of part to whole, you have a circle and you have different segments, but many people prefer to use the donut chart, and that's because we can add an extra informations to the circle. Alright, so now in order to build it, we need 2 charts. The first one gonna be the pie chart, and the second one gonna be the empty space in the middle. So let's start with the pie chart. As we learned previously, we have to switch the automatic to a pie chart, then we take our measure, gonna be the sum of sales, to the angle, and then next we're gonna take the divider, it's gonna be the country, to the colors, and with that we got our pie chart. Okay, so now next I'm gonna switch from standard to entire view. So this is for the first chart. Now in order to get the empty circle in the middle, we have to create another chart inside this view. So now we're gonna go and create our empty measure just to have a second chart. So in order to do that, let's go to the columns over here and write average of 0. So now we're still in the marks, we have only one visual. In order to get a second one, we will go and duplicate it. So now with that, we got our 2 measures, one for the pie chart and the second one gonna be for the empty space. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna go and merge those stuff together in one place because we have to have only one donut. So right click on the average and let's go to the dual axis. And as usual, we're gonna go and synchronize stuff. So let's go and synchronize the axes. And now let's go and get rid of them. We don't want them, so show header away and as well from the bottom. So now we have the two charts in one plate. It's a little bit small, so let's go and make things a little bit bigger. So let's go to the sizes and just make it bigger in the middle. Alright, so now let's go and make the empty space in the middle. So let's switch to the second marked over here. And now the second chart, it will not be a pie, it's gonna be like a circle. So let's go and switch it to a circle and let's get rid of all those informations. And now if you check our view, we don't see the pie chart, and that's because we have overlapping and the pie chart is behind our circle. So now in order to show it, what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to the circle, go to the size, and now let's go and start reducing the size of the circle. And as you can see, now we are getting the shape of donuts, but our donut should has in the middle a white color. So let's go and change the circle color to white. Perfect. Now we got the donut shapes in our view, but now let's go and get rid of all those lines. So right click over here on the empty space, go to format, then let's go to the left side. Let's start with the lines over here. So the 0 line, let's go and switch it to none. And then we still have on the column one more line. Let's switch to the columns. Instead of the grid line, let's move it to none. And then in order to get rid of those borders, let's switch to the borders. Then let's go to the row divider, make it none. And as well for the column divider, it's none. And with that, we got very clean donut shapes in Tableau. Now let's add some labels and some data to our donut charts. So let's go to the pie chart first. Here we're gonna get the informations of those sections. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna bring, for example, the country to the labels. And as well, we can go and get the sum of sales, like hold control and drag and drop it to the labels as well. Now we can go and change the font format, of course, if we go to the labels over here and then click on the 3 dots. Then let's make, for example, the sum of sales bold, and that's it. So far there is nothing new compared to the pie charts. We are just showing the informations of each sections. But now here comes the power of the donut charts. We can give an information here inside this white circle, and it's gonna be usually the total of the measure, the total sales. So now let's go and switch to the circle over here. Let's go and get the sum of sales and put it to the labels. Now you can see the sum of sales here strangely on the right side because we didn't customize it yet. So let's go to the labels and then let's go to the alignment over here and make it everything to the middle. So with that, as you can see, we got the total sales in the middle. Let's go and customize the text a little bit. So let's go inside. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna write the total sales at the start, and then we're gonna make everything like bold for the real number, the real values, and let's make everything a little bit bigger. So 16, and click OK. So now as you can see, we got now another information to the bar charts where we have the total sum of sales in the middle, and then we can see very nicely the different sections around this number. So that's it. This is how you can create donut charts in Tableau, and this type of chart, it is like way more used than the pie chart since you can add one extra informations in the middle. Okay, so now we have another chart in order to analyze the part to whole using the Treemap. We usually work with the Treemaps in order to show the hierarchical data inside our datasets. So let's see how we can build that. Let's first start with the marks. Let's go and switch it to squares. The next step, we're gonna go to the sales and we're gonna put it on the size. With that, we got one blue square for the total sales inside our data. Now, of course, we want to go and split this square to multiple informations, and here we're gonna work with the hierarchy of the products. So let's start with the first dimension, the category. Let's drag and drop it to the colors, and as you can see, we already got now a tree map. So the colors of the tree map is decided from the category, and the size of those blocks gonna be decided from the sales. Now, of course, in this tree map, we want to represent the hierarchy, so the next dimension gonna be the subcategory, but this time we will not move it to the colors, we will move it to the details. So let's go and do that. So now as you can see, each of those blocks are divided to more blocks where we have the subcategory informations. So that means the data will keep splitting in the tree map the more dimensions we add from the hierarchy. So for example, let's go and grab the product name and let's put it to the details. And now we can see that we have a lot of mini blocks that represent the product name. So with that, we have represented our hierarchy of the product in a visual, in a tree map. And we can see that each category, for example, the red is split into multiple subcategories, and each subcategory is split furthermore to products. But of course, the disadvantage here is that the more details you add, the harder gonna be to read this visualization. So I don't recommend you to go with the product name in such a visualizations. It should be enough with the category and the subcategory. And of course, like any other charts in our visualizations, we can have multiple tree maps in one view by adding a dimension to either columns or rows. Like for example, let's go and get the order date to the rows, and with that we got multiple tree maps splitted by the years, which is really useless to have such a visualization. So let's go and remove it. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about the heat map. It is like a matrix where you have colors inside it, and we usually use it in order to do colorations between two categories. So let's see how we can build that. We need two categories, that means we need two dimensions. So let's say the first one gonna be the country. Let's drag and drop it to the columns. And then the second dimension gonna be, for example, the subcategory. Let's drag and drop it to the rows. And with that, we got our matrix. Let's switch to entire view. So we have rows, we have columns. Now what is missing, of course, is our measure, the data. So now in order to create the effect of the heat map, we're gonna take the sum of sales and let's put it to the colors. And now with that, we got our heat map, and we can see from the colors the coloration between the countries and the subcategories, where we can see immediately that the highest sales where we have the dark color. So for example, we have high sales from the country France and as well from the subcategory phones. And the lowest sales we can see it, for example, here in the envelopes and Italy, where here we can see again the power of visualizations, where we can read now the trends and the colorations between our data, which is way better than having only numbers. But of course, if we want to add some numbers in this matrix, we can go to the labels over here, show marks, and if you want to make it to the middle, let's go to the alignments and let's make everything in the middle. So that's it. As you can see, it's really simple, and this is how we can create heat map in Tableau. Bubble chart in Tableau, they are a really great way in order to add a lot of dimensions and measures in one single view. So bubble charts are like circles, and we can define a lot of stuff in the circle, like the colors, the size, we can put inside it a text. So let's have an example. We're gonna start with the marks. So instead of automatic, let's go and switch it to circles, since the bubbles are circles. So let's start with the first information. We're gonna go and get the measure sales, and let's put it on the size. So with that, we got our first small bubble or circle. Let me switch it to entire view. So now we have one information, the total sales inside our data. Let's add another information like a dimension. So let's go and add the subcategories inside our view. So I'm gonna take this dimension and let's put it on the details. So now as you can see, we got more bubbles, and we're gonna get a bubble for each subcategory now. Alright, so now let's keep adding more informations to our bubbles. Let's say that I would like to add the coloring for the bubble, and this should come from another measure. Let's take the profits and let's put it to the colors. So now with that, we got different colors depends on the values from the profit. And now how about to add one more information inside those bubbles? Let's say the category. So let's go and get the dimension category, and now let's put it on the labels. So now we can see the category of each bubble of each subcategory. So now as you can see, we have four different informations that we have inside our bubble. The first one is the colors of the bubbles indicates the profits, and then the size of the bubbles show us the sales informations, and then the number of those bubbles are decided from the subcategory. So we have all those subcategories inside our data, and finally the text inside the bubble comes from the category. So this is the power of the bubble chart, where you find a lot of information in one view. Okay, so now we have another fun one called stacked bubble charts. So here we're gonna add a lot of dimensions in the details. So let's see how we can build that. Let's go to automatic as usual, then switch it to circles. Let's take the sum of sales and put it on the size. We are just creating again our bubbles, and this time we're gonna go and get the country and let's put it to the colors. So far we have those four colors for four countries. So now if we bring any dimensions to the details, it's gonna split these bubbles to more small bubbles, and that's depend on the cardinality of the dimension. For example, let's take the category. It has very small cardinality, and with that we will get just few bubbles. So if we go and remove it, let's take the subcategory And now as you can see, we are getting way more bubbles than the category, and that's because we have more data inside the subcategory. And now let's go with higher cardinality. So let's just remove the subcategories and let's get, for example, the product name. So once you do it, you will get a lot of small bubbles and they are all stacked together. And of course you can go and sort the bubbles differently. If you go to the country over here, right click on it and let's go to sorts. Let me just move it to the left side a little bit, and if you change the sort, as you can see, the color is going to change as well. So here you can go and sort the bubble as you want. And now of course we can go with more details if we take the lowest level of details, the order ID. So let's drop the product name away and let's go and get the order ID. And with that, Tableau gonna ask us, do you really want all of those data? Yes. Add all members, and now you will get for each order a small bubble inside our visualizations. Okay, so this is another way on how to represent your data in visuals using the stacked bubble chart. But if you look at it, you will find it's look like the Sauron eye. Alright, so that's all for the stacked bubble charts. Okay, so now we're going to talk about Tableau maps. First, let's get the data in order to plot the maps. So let's go and create a third data source. I am at the data source page. Let's go over here in this small icon, new data source, and then let's go to the text file and then to the data that we downloaded. So let's go to the big folder and then we have over here USA sales. So let's select this CSV file and click open. So it's really simple table where we have the orders, country, region, state, and sales. So that's it. Let's go back to our view and let's create now a very basic map in Tableau. So again, we can go and sheet using the show me, but we're gonna go and create it from scratch. So now if you have a look to our data bin, you can find that we have two automatically generated fields, the latitude and the longitude. They are geographical coordinates in order to plot the map, the Earth. So the latitude is responsible to plot the horizontal lines and the longitude is responsible to plot the vertical lines. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go and use them to the columns. Let's take the longitude to the columns and the latitude to the rows. So with that, you can see that Tableau is now able to plot the Earth. And now next we have to specify for Tableau the country, the states, those geographical informations. So let's take, for example, the country to the details. And with that, you can see that Tableau is now focusing only on the United States because we have only informations about USA. So now let's take the states as well and put it to the details. And now as you can see, Tableau is focusing now with those points on each state. Alright, so now the next step, instead of having circles, I would like to have a map chart. So let's go to the marks, switch it from automatic to map, and with that we have the whole area covered with the colors. So now you can go and add coloring depending on the dimension that you want. So for example, we can go to the region over here and put it to the colors. So now we can see that the map is now splitted by the regions. So now what is missing here is the sales informations. So let's go and get the sales, but here we have small problem that the sales is a dimension and discrete because of the data type. So let's go and switch it to a number whole and then make it continuous. So convert it to continuous. And then the last thing, we have to convert it as well to a measure because it's still as a dimension. So everything is fine. Let's go and get the sales to the labels. And with that, we got very nicely the total sales for each state. So this is how you can create a very basic map in Tableau. Okay, moving on to the next one, we can create maps in Tableau with symbols. So I just duplicated the previous one. Let's go and switch the visual from map to, for example, circles. And then the size of the circle gonna be decided from the sales. So let's take the sales and put it to the size. And then the next step, let's go and make the circles a little bit bigger. And now we can add another measure to the circles. Let's say the number of orders. We're gonna take over here the count of the USA sales CSV. So let's take it to the colors. So now the scale of the color gonna define the number of orders and the size of the circle gonna be defined from the sales. So this is one way in how to represent those informations as the circles or bubbles. We can go and choose different shapes. So let's go over here in the marks and go to the shapes. You can go, for example, with, let's say, what we have over here. Let's go with the stars. So as you can see, we have here a lot of options on which symbol can be presented inside our map. So this is how you can add symbols to the map in Tableau. Alright guys, maps in Tableau are very rich in the customizations. There are a lot of options on how to plot the maps in the view. So now I'm going to show you a few possibilities on how to plot the maps in Tableau. The first one is about how to have a map without any background noises. So now let's go and do that. If you take the country field and just drop it here in the middle, Tableau going to understand we are talking about map and we're going to get automatically everything inside the columns and the rows. So now the next step, let's take as usual the states over here, and then we're going to go and color it with the region on the colors. So now if you check the map, you can see there are a lot of grayed out areas inside the map that is not used directly. So if you want to remove all those informations, what we're going to do, we're going to go to the main menu. You have here maps options, and then here we have a background layers. Let's go and click on that. And then here on the left side, we will get many options on how to customize the maps. I really recommend you to go and click around. It's really fun to work with maps in Tableau. So now the task is to remove all those background informations. What we're going to do, we will just remove all those selected informations. So let's just remove everything, and with that, as you can see, we have removed the background and we have only the relevant informations inside our view. And there is another way on how to remove the background. Let me just go back with all those settings. So I think with that we got all informations back. Another way to remove the background informations, to go to the washout and move it from 0 to 100. So now as you can see, the background inside our map did disappear. So this is how we can remove the background informations inside our map, and you get really a clean map in order to focus on the relevant data. Okay, the next one is as well about customizing the maps in Tableau. So now let's go and create a night vision map. It is just fun to work with maps in Tableau. So let's go again and get the countries in the middle, the states to the details. So now in Tableau, we have different types of maps, not only one. So if you go to the main menu over here to the maps, either you check the background map. So here we have the different modes, or if you go again to the background layers, and on the left side, you can see here the styles. So currently it is white and gray, it's light. So if you click over here, you can find the different modes. We have the normal one, and then we have stuff like dark, street, outdoors, and satellite informations. So it's really nice to have different styles. What we're gonna do now, since it's night vision, we're gonna go with the dark modes. So now the next thing, I would like to reduce some informations like United States and Mexico. Let's go and remove those stuff from the left side. And then what we're going to do, we're going to go and add some measure to our view. So let's close the background layers over here. Let's go and get the sales to the size. So with that, we are getting those nice circles. Let's make it a little bit bigger. And then we can add the sales as well to the colors. So hold control, put it on the colors, and let's change the coloring. So let's go and edit colors. And now let's go to the automatic over here and let's change it to another pattern. For example, let's take the blue-green over here. Click OK. Okay, so now we're gonna go and add more customizations to our map. For example, let's say that I would like to change the color of the borders for those states. So I would like to make it red in order to make it more interesting. I cannot do that in the current view because if I change anything about the border, it's gonna change the border of the circles and not the border of the states. So in order to do that, we need two maps, one for the circles and one for the states. Alright, so now let's see how we can do that. We're gonna go to the longitude and we're gonna go and duplicate it. So now with that, we got two maps, the left and the right. Let's go and configure the right one. So let's switch the marks to the second map. And now instead of having circles, we want to have a map. So let's switch it to a map. So now as you can see, now we have two different types of maps, but now I would like to have only the border information. So I'm not interested about the sales. So let's go and remove it, and as well for the sizing. And now as you can see, we have gray colors that is filling the map. So let's go to the colors and reduce the opacity to 0%. So with that, we don't have any colors on the map. What do we need is the color of the border. So let's go again to the colors. Let's go to the borders over here. Let's make it red. I'm not really happy with this color. I want it to be more red. So let's go to more colors and let's get the re-red. And now the question is how to merge those two maps in one map. Well, the answer for that, using the dual axis again. So let's go to the right one over here, right click on it and dual axis. Alright, so with that we got one map, but I'm still not that happy. You can see that the circles are behind the lines in order to have it in the front, let's go and switch those two measures. And now you can see that the circles are in the front. Alright, so with that we have created our night vision map, and with that you have learned as well how many possibilities that we have in Tableau in order to customize the maps. All those different options that we have inside the maps, I really recommend you to go and explore those options that we have inside Tableau. It's really fun. Okay, so now we're gonna learn how to create histograms in Tableau. There is two ways, one quick way and one advanced way. The quick way if you have one measure, the advanced way if you have two measures. The histograms are a really great way in order to show the distribution of your data using bar charts. So let's see how we can do that. Let's work with the one measure, the quantity. So right click on it and then go to create and then to bins. And here we can go and configure our bins. I'm gonna leave it as a default as Tableau suggests. So let's go and click OK. With that we have created a new bin, a new dimension in our data pane. So now what we can do, we're gonna go and grab it to the columns, and here you can find the size of our bins, and then we're gonna go and get the quantity to the rows. And then the next and the last step, what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to the quantity and convert it from discrete to continuous. So right click on it and switch it to continuous. So with that we have created a very simple and nice histogram to see the distribution of our data using the measure quantity. Alright, the next one is going to be a little bit more advanced, where we're going to create a histogram using two different measures, the number of customers by the number of orders. So we want to cluster our customers based on the number of orders that they placed. So now in order to do that, we have to create our bins, but now we're going to use the calculated field in order to do that using the LOD expressions fixed. So let's see how we can do that. Let's go and create a new calculated field. Let me just move it a little bit over here. So what we're going to find out is the number of orders per customers. So in order to do that, we're going to use the LOD function fixed. So it starts with fixed. Let me select that. And then for each customers, we want to count the number of orders. So for customers, we're going to get the customer ID, and then the aggregation is going to be the number of orders. So that means we're going to go and count the order ID. Alright, so that's it. Let's go and hit OK. So with that, Tableau did create a continuous measure, but I would like to convert it to a discrete dimension. So right click on it and let's convert it to dimension, and that's it. So now let's go and grab it to our view and check the informations. Alright, so with that you can see that we have already our bins, and those are the different number of orders that the customers did order. So the next step, we need our second measure. It's gonna be the number of customers. So let's go to the customers count over here, drag and drop it to the rows. And as well, let's take the customers to the labels, and with that we got a very nice histogram in Tableau using two measures. So again here, if you want to build a histogram from two different measures, one of those measures has to be the basics, the bins of the histogram, and the second measure gonna be used in order to do the counts. So now we can see very quickly that most of our customers are ordering between 13 orders and like 16 orders. Alright, so those are the two methods on how to create histograms, the easy way and the little bit complicated way. Okay, so now we're gonna learn how to create calendar in Tableau. So now we're gonna go and build this calendar using the order date. So let's take the order date first to the columns. And now in the columns, we have to have the days. So right click on it in order to change the format, and then go to more, and then let's get the weekday. So with that, we got the Monday, Tuesday, and so on. Then we need to build the rows of the calendar, and it's gonna be the week number. So let's go and hold Control, duplicate it to the rows. Instead of the weekday, let's switch the formats again to over here to the more, and then week number. So with that, we got our matrix, our calendar, but as you can see, we have here all the weeks. I would like to reduce it to only 1 month. So that means we're gonna go and add some filters to our view. Let's take the order date, put it on the filters, and the first filter gonna be on the years. So go and select the years, and let's select the last year, hit OK, and we can of course go and offer it for the users. So right click over here and show the filter on the right side. We're gonna do the same for the months. So let's go and take the order date and put it in the filters. Let's go for the month next, and let's select only 1 month and then offer it as well to the users. Alright, so with that we got a calendar of 1 month. Let's go and switch it from standard to entire view. So now as usual we need a measure in order to fill our calendar. It's gonna be the sum of sales, so drag and drop it and put it on the colors. Alright, so with that we can see already that we have a heat map inside our calendar. Now we need to just add few stuff. For example, let's add some white border between those informations. Go to the colors and then go to the border and add a white color so that we get nice separations between the days. And let's add as well the day number in each box. So in order to do that, we're gonna go to the order dates, put it on the labels over here, and then here Tableau switch it automatically to a text. Let's go and switch it back to squares, and instead of having the years we have to go and format our date. So right click on it and let's go and select the day, and then the next step, let's go and place those numbers of the days on the top right corner. So let's go to the labels, alignments, and let's go to right and then top. Alright, so with that we got a really nice calendar in Tableau. Of course you can go and switch to another month, let's say for example in February, or check another year, 2021, and that's it. This is how you can create calendar in Tableau. Alright, now we're gonna create in Tableau the waterfall charts. It's very useful in order to show the flow of the process of your data and as well to show the analysis of part to whole. So let's see how we can create that. First we need a dimension like the subcategories. Let's move it to the columns, and then we need a measure. This time let's take the profit, drag and drop it to the rows, and then let's change it from standard to entire view. So now in order to have a waterfall inside our view, we need the running total. In order to do that, let's go to the profit over here, right click on it, and let's do a quick table calculations, and let's switch it to running total. So with that you can see we have now a running total of our data, but still it is not a waterfall. So in order to do that we have to switch it from the classic bars, so let's go to the marks over here, to the Gantt bars. Alright, so with that we got the basics for our waterfall, but now the size of each line gonna depend on the profits. So let's go again and grab the profit to the size, but now if you check it closely we can see that those bars are not making the waterfall because they are in the opposite direction. We would like it to be starting from 0 from the bottom to top. So in order to make this effect, let's go to the sum of profit over here, double click on it, and then let's make it as a minus. So click on that, and now exactly we got what we want. So it starts from the bottom to up, and with that we are forming the shape of waterfall. So now we have to add some coloring. So let's go and get the profit, put it on the colors, and now what we want to do with the colors, if the numbers are positive then it's gonna stay blue, but if it's negative it should be red. So in order to do that, let's go to the colors and edit colors. And now we're gonna do the following setup. So let's go over here and make it only 2 steps. And then let's go to advanced over here and make sure that everything in the center, so it is 0 over here. And that's it. So let's go and hit OK. And with that we can see very easily where are the negative values in our waterfall and where are the positive values. You can of course make it as green and red. So now the last thing that we have to add to our waterfall is the total. In order to do that, it's really simple. Let's go to the analysis on the main menu, and then we go to the totals over here, and let's add show row grand totals. So by doing that we get our total on the right side, and with that we get a perfect waterfall chart in Tableau. Now we have the Pareto chart. It is very famous chart in the statistics, and this chart is based on the Pareto principle, where it used the rule of 80-20. And the principle says 80% of the outcomes are generated from 20% of work or efforts. And one way to visual the Pareto chart, we can use 2 different charts. The first one gonna be the bar chart, and the second gonna be the line charts. So let's see how we can build that in Tableau. First we're gonna start with the dimension subcategory, so drag and drop it to the columns, and then we need our measure. Let's check the sales, so drag and drop the sales to the rows. And now in order to have the Pareto effect, we have to sort the data descending. So first should comes the data with the highest sales, and then we go descending to the right sides. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to the sales over here and sort it. Perfect. Now we have the bar chart. The next step we want to do is to build the line charts. So in order to do that, we're gonna go and get the sum of sales and duplicate it. So hold Control and duplicate this field. And with that, we got our two charts. So since the second chart gonna be a line chart, let's go and switch it. So I'm gonna switch the sum of sales, the second one, and instead of automatic, we're gonna have it as a line. And as well, I'm gonna change the color to orange. Perfect. As usual, we have to go and merge those two charts together. So let's go to the sum of sales, right click on it and dual axis. And here our chart is broken because the first chart is automatic. So let's go to the first one over here and switch it back to bars. Alright, so we are not there yet because we have to work on the line. The line should be the percentage of the running total. So in order to do that in Tableau, it's really easy. Let's go to the sum of sales over here, right click on it, and let's go and add table calculation. Alright, so now we're gonna go and configure our table calculations for the second measure, and as I said, here we have to do two things. First, we have to calculate the running total, and then we have to apply the percentage. So in order to do that, let's go and change the calculation type to running total. So let's go and select that. And with that, as you can see in the background, we have a running total, but the principle here is based on the percentage of the running total. So we have to go and switch this to a percentage. In order to do that, we're gonna click over here and say add a second calculation. So let's click on that. So with that, we get a primary and secondary calculations. The first one can be executed as a running total, and then on top of that, we want to get the percentage. So let's go and switch it from difference from the secondary to percent of total. Let's click on that, and that's it for the table calculations. Let's go and close it. And with that, we have built our Pareto chart, but let's understand what is going on over here. So now in order to easily read this, I'm gonna go to the second one, to the line, and let's put the labels on top of it. And of course, the principle says 80-20. That means 20% of those subcategories should cover the 80%. And as you can see, we cannot say that in this business. So if you check our subcategories in this example, you can see it's not 20%. We have around 9 subcategories in order to reach the 80%. So in this example, our business does not follow this principle. It's not 80% of the sales are covered by 20% of the subcategories. Alright, so this is one method on how to create Pareto chart in Tableau, and this is how you can read it. Alright, so now we're gonna learn another method on how to create Pareto chart in Tableau. This time we're gonna go and use two different measures using only one line. So let's see how we can do that. Now we have the business question, and it's asked us, do the 20% of the products makes up 80% of the sales? So now let's go and get the answer from the data. In order to do that, let's get first our first measure. It's gonna be the sum of sales. Drag and drop it to the rows. And now let's go and get our second measure. It's gonna be the count of products. So in order to do that, let's take for example the product name to the columns. And Tableau asks us, here we have a lot of members, so add all members. So now as you can see, we have a dimension, but we want to count how many products we have inside our data. So right click on it and let's go to the measure, and then let's select count distinct. So with that, we got our two measures. One more thing that we need inside the details in order to do the calculations, we need as well the product name to be on the details in order to use it. Alright, so I'm gonna go over here and switch it to entire view. So let's go to the first measure, right click on it, and let's add table calculation. So here again, we have the same stuff. We're gonna switch it to a running total, and then we're gonna go and add a secondary calculation. The secondary calculation gonna be the percent of total, and as well let's specify the dimension. So let's go and specify the dimension to the product name. The same as well for the right side, it's gonna be the product name. Alright, so with that we got everything ready for the first calculation. Let's go and close it. And now as you can see, we have already now the percent of the running total for the products. Let's do the same stuff for the sales. So right click on the sales, and then let's go and add table calculation. Let's go to running total, specify the dimension, gonna be the product name, and let's go and add the secondary calculation. It's gonna be the percent of total. And then the same stuff, we have to go to the specific dimension and specify the product name. Alright, so with that we have prepared everything for the second calculation. Let's go and close it. Now we have to go and switch it back to line since we have it as automatic. So Tableau he decided to go with the shapes. So let's go and switch it to line. And now with that that, we are almost there. We have the running total of both of the measures and we have our line. But as you can see, the line is a little bit jittery, and that's because we haven't sorted the data yet. It's very important for the Pareto chart that we sort the data like we have done in the method 1. So now let's go and sort the product name by their sales. In order to do that, right click over here and go to sort, and then we're going to sort it by the sales. So let's switch it to a field and let's go and select the sales from the field name over here, convert it. So let's make it as a descending. Perfect. Now we got exactly the Pareto chart that we need. So now we have to check whether it's true that 20% of our products make up 80% of our sales. So now in order to check that quickly and easily in the view, we can add the support of the reference lines. So let's go and add some reference lines. Let's go to the analytics over here. Let's take here a reference line. Let's drag and drop it first to the first value. And now what we can do, instead of having the average, let's go and switch it to constants. And now here we're going to check whether the 20%, so it's going to be 0.2. And now with that, we're gonna get a reference line exactly on the 20% of the products. Let's go and close that. So with that, as you can see, we have a very nice line, indicates exactly the 20% on the products. The next step is that we're gonna go and add another reference line for the sales. So let's take a reference line, drag and drop it exactly on top of the sum of sales. And now we're going to do the same stuff. Instead of average, let's switch it to a constant. And since we need 80%, it's going to be 0.8. So with that, we got exactly the 80% of the sales. So perfect. Now we have our Pareto chart and we can easily answer these questions from our data. So we can say, yes, 20% of our products are covering 80% of the sales, which is exactly matches the rule of 80-20, the principle of the Pareto. Alright, so this is the two methods on how to create Pareto charts in Tableau and analyze your business. Alright, now we have the butterfly chart, or we call it sometimes the tornado chart. It is a great chart in order to analyze two different measures by specific dimension. So for example, if you want to compare the number of customers with the number of orders by the category, then the butterfly chart is your chart. So what do we need first? The dimension. It's gonna be as usual the subcategory. Let's move it to the rows, and then as usual I'm gonna move it as entire view. Then we need our two measures. The first one is gonna be the customer count. Let's move it to the columns. Then the second one gonna be the order count. Alright, so with that we have our two measures and the subcategory. Now in order to form the shape of the butterfly, we have to have the dimension exactly in the middle, and then on the right side we have one measure and on the left side we can have another measure. So in order to do that, we're going to use the placeholder, the average of 0. So let's have it over here and let's go and place it exactly in the middle. So now with that we have the measure on the left, measure on the right, and something empty in the middle. And then let's go and configure this chart. It's going to be the middle one, the average of 0, and let's go and switch it to a text. And now the next thing, we have to go and get the dimension to the text over here. And with that, you can see we got now the spine of the butterfly. So let's go and make it a little bit more bold. So I'm going to go over here and just make it bold. But now we have to have the two wings, right? On the right and on the left. You can see the right side is okay. So we have it as a wing. Let's go and sort the data, by the way. But the left wing is not correct yet. So in order to do that, let's go to the count of customers over here on the axis. Let's edit the axis. And let's go and reverse the scale. So with that, we get exactly the opposite in the scale. Let's go and close it. And as you can see now, we got it perfect. On the left side, the wing of the customers, and on the right side, we have the orders. So now the next step is what we usually do is to add some coloring. For example, let's stay at the customers over here and drag, holding control, the count of customers to the colors. And as well, we can go to the orders over here and drag and drop the orders by holding control to the colors. But of course, we can go and customize the right side with using different coloring. So let's go to the colors over here and change the pattern maybe to orange. Let's hit OK. And as well, we can go and make the text in the middle a little bit more bigger. So let's go to the middle. And then let's make it maybe something like 15. And now we can see those subcategories in the middle very clearly. But since we have it in the middle, we don't need it on the left side, right? So let's go and hide it, right click on it. And then let's go and disable show header. And as well, we can go to the axis over here and as well disable the headers. And of course, we can add more formatting in order to remove those grids. So right click over here on the empty space to the format. And then we can go to the columns tab and as well remove the grid line. And with that we got a clean chart represent a butterfly or a tornado, depend on how you see it, where you can go and compare two different measures by specific dimension. Alright, so now in the method 2, we're gonna bring those two wings together. In order to do that, we're gonna get exactly the same informations. Let's go and get the subcategories to the rows. And then as usual, switch it to entire view. Let's go and get our measures. So the first one gonna be the count of customers. And then the second one gonna be the count of orders, but we have to put it now on top of each others. And since we are using the same type of charts, we're going to use the measure names and measure values. So take the order counts and drag and drop it on top of the axis over here in order to generate the measure names and values. Alright, so we have those informations. Now we're going to go and take the measure names. We don't need it on the rows, so drag and drop it to the colors over here. And just to make sure that everything stays as bars, I'm going to go from here and switch it from automatic to bar. And now the next step, we're going to go and sort the data. So click on the axis over here and then sort the data descending. Both of the values or the wings are on the right side. So now in order to have the effect of left and right, we don't have here two axes. What we're gonna do, we're gonna do a very small trick. In order to do that, let's go to the customers over here, double click on it and just go to the front before the counts and put a minus. So let's go and hit enter. So with that we get again the effect of the butterfly where we have the left and the right wings together. But of course what is missing here is the spine, the dimension, the subcategory. So in order to do that we're going to do the same. So we're going to go and have the average of 0 as a placeholder. We have it now on the right side. So let's go switch to it and then we're going to switch it to a text since we want to have a text of the subcategory. And then the next step we're going to go and get the text. So it's going to come from the subcategory, drag and drop it on top of the text. And with that we got the values or the spine of the butterfly. So the next step is that we're going to go and merge them together in one chart. So what we're going to do, we're going to go and use the dual axis, right click on the average and then here we use the dual axis. But as you can see those values are not yet in the middle and that's because we haven't synchronized the axis. So go to the average over here and then let's select synchronize axis, and with that we got the spine exactly in the middle, but it's not really clear because it's red. So let's go and change those colors. So let's go to the average over here, double click on it and let's select complete white. So that's it, click OK. And now the next step, as usual, we're gonna go and start hiding stuff because all those informations are not necessary. So the average over here, let's go and hide it. And as well, we don't need the header informations because we have it already in the middle. So right click over here and disable show header. And with that, we get a very elegant and nice butterfly charts in Tableau where both of the wings together. And now you can go and analyze the coloration between the number of orders and the number of customers by the category. Alright, so this is how you can create butterfly or tornado charts in Tableau using two methods. Alright, so now we're gonna go and learn how to build quadrant charts in Tableau. This type of chart is gonna go and present a lot of data points in one view using two measures, and then we go and compare those different data points based on their position on that quadrant. And then we go and split the chart into 4 different quadrants. This type of chart is really great in order to do strategic planning or to do risk management or as well to find some trends. So now let's go and check in Tableau how we can build that. So the first thing that we need is two different measures. The first one gonna be, let's take the discount and put it on the columns, and then let's go and find the average of the discount. So right click on it and let's go to the average instead of sum. So this is our first measure. Now we need another measure, and this time gonna be the profit ratio. We don't have it in our data, so let's go and quickly create it. So create a new calculated field, profit ratio, and it's very simple. So it's gonna be the sum of profit divided by the sum of sales. So that's it. Let's go and hit OK. And then let's go and bring it to our rows. So with that, we got our 2 axes, but I would like to have it as percentage. So let's go and change the formats. Let's go first to the profit ratio. And then instead of numbers, let's go and switch it to percentage. And then let's go and remove those decimals. The same thing, let's do it for the average of discounts. So let's go and format it as well to percentage and remove those decimals. Alright, so that's all for the axis. What do we need now is the customers as a data points. So in order to do that, let's go and get the customer ID and let's put it on the details. So now as you can see, each of our customers are presented as a data point. Let's go and change the visual of that. Instead of shapes, let's have circles, and let's go and reduce the opacity in order to see the overlapping between those points. And as well, we can go and make it a little bit bigger. So now we need two values in order to split this chart into 4 different quadrants. And now here, since we have the title as dynamic, we want to offer it to the users as parameters in order to specify those 2 values. So now let's go and create 2 parameters in the data pane. So we can create the first one. Let's say select discount. So it's gonna stay as float and the display gonna be as a percentage. Let's reduce the decimals, and then let's say that the default is gonna be 0.15. So with that, we're gonna get 15%. So that's it for the first one. We're gonna do exactly the same for the second one in order to get the profit ratio. So let's create another parameter and we're gonna call it select profit ratio. We're gonna have the same stuff again, so we're gonna have it as percentage, reduce the decimals, and let's have it as a 10%, so 0.1. So that's it for this one. Let's go and close it and show it in our view. So show parameter and show parameter. Now we have it on the right side. Next we have to create now a separation in our view in order to show how the data are splitted. So in order to do that, we're gonna add 2 reference lines. So let's start with the profit ratio. Right click on it and add a reference line, and then the value gonna depend of course on our new parameters. So select profit ratio, and then let's go and make the label empty, and then we can go and change the format. Instead of having a line, let's have a dashed one, and then let's have it black, and then increase the opacity, and that's it. Let's hit OK and do the same as well for the discount. So right click on the discount, add the reference line. We need our parameter. It's gonna be select discounts. Remove the label and as well do the same stuff on the customization. So we're gonna have it as dashed and as well have it clear on our view. Alright, so now let's go and hit OK. Alright, so now as you can see, we have already our quadrant charts where we have splitted our data into 4 different sections. And of course, we can go now and change those splitters using the parameters. So let's go to the profit ratio and change it to 0.2. So with that, we move it to 20%. Now, of course, what is missing in our quadrant is the colorings of those points. So each section should have its own colors. And in order to do that, we have to go and create another calculated field to have those 4 values. So let's go and create one. So let's call it quadrant color. So now we have to go and identify the position of each data point inside our quadrants. So let me just move it a little bit over here. And in order to do that, we're going to use the if else statements. So let's start first identifying the points on the upper right. So all those points on the upper right. So how we're going to do it? We're going to say if the profit ratio to the parameter value that is selected from the users. So we're going to say select and then the profit ratio. So that means we are checking whether the user on the upper section, and now we have to check whether it's on the left or on the right. So we're going to talk about now the discount and the average discounts as well higher or equal to the value selected from the parameter. So we're going to write select and discounts. So now we are targeting all the customers on the upper right. So what can happen if the condition is fulfilled? We're going to say upper right. Alright, so now we're going to go and do the same stuff for all other 3 sections. So let's go and just copy it from here. And then we're going to say else if. And then let's go and paste it. Let me just make it a little bit bigger in order to see it. So now what we're going to do, we're going to go and target the upper left. So in order to do that, we have to go and change the discount to smaller. So now we are saying if the discount is smaller than the selected value in the middle, so that means we are on the left side. So what's going to happen? We will just go and flag it with the following value, upper left. Then we have to do the same stuff for, let's say, so now we're going to go and target the bottom right. So let's call it bottom right. For the discount part, it is not correct. So let's move it like this in order to have the right section. And for the ratio, in order to be in the bottom, this time it's going to be smaller. So with that, we are at the right side. And for the last section, in order to target it, we don't have to go and specify it. We will say just simply else. Because if none of those conditions are fulfilled, we will end up by the last one. So we're going to call it bottom left. Okay, so that's all. Let's go and end our if else statements, and the calculation is valid. Let's go and hit OK. And with that, we got our new calculated field. Let's go and drag and drop it to the colors. So now, as you can see, we have a dedicated color for each different sections inside our quadrants. And of course, if the users goes over here and change the values of the parameters, the coloring will react as well, since we have the parameters inside our calculated field. So for example, instead of 15, let's have it as 0.25. So now, as you can see, the reference lines goes to the right side to the 25%, and as well the coloring will be adjusted. So that's all. This is how you can create a very nice dynamic quadrant chart in Tableau. Now we're going to talk about the box plot in Tableau, or sometimes we call it box and whisker plot. This type of chart is going to help you to understand the data distributions of your data sets. So this chart has like a box and two whiskers on the top and on the bottom, and then in the middle we have the median and the edges of the box. So with that, we will get 5 different numbers in how our data is distributed. So let's see how we're going to build that in Tableau. It's really easy. So let's start as usual with the sales. Let's drag and drop it to the rows, and then we're gonna see how the sub of categories are distributed on those sales. So let's take the subcategory to the details first, and then we have to change the visual to circles. So let's go to the marks over here and change it to circles. So now, in order to have different charts, I would like to add the category to the columns over here, and then let's go and make it a little bit bigger to the middle over here. And now let's go and reduce those circles a little bit in order to have it more clear. And with that, we have the first part of the box plots where we have circles. Next, we have to get those numbers or the shape of the box and the whiskers. In order to do that, we have to add a reference line. So let's go to the sales over here, right click on it and add a reference line. And here everything is prepared from Tableau. If you go to the box plot over here, and that's it, let's click OK. And that's it actually. With that, we got a box plot in Tableau. So now if you go and mouse hover on the chart, you will get the 5 different values: the upper whisker, the lower whisker, the median, and so on. Alright, so now the question is how to read the box plots. Well, there are a lot of informations over here, but the first thing that you can do is to compare the position of the median of each box. So if you have a look over here, you can see that those two boxes are at the same level, right? So they are very similar categories. But if you check the office supply, that you can see the median or the box itself, it is below those two other boxes. This can indicate for us that the furniture and technology has a same distribution, but the office supply has a different one. And another thing that you can check is the size of the box itself. If the box is tall or the length of the box is long, then that means the subcategories inside this category are not really similar and they are far away from each other's. But if you check the office supply, you can see that the box is shorter, so the length of this box is smaller compared to the other two. That's gonna give us the information or the hint that the subcategories of this category, the office supplies, has like a similar sales. So that means if we have a shorter box, the members of this category gonna have a similar behavior. But if you have a tall box, that's gonna suggest that the members of those informations gonna have different sales. But if we have a big or tall box, that means the members of this category gonna have different behavior. And of course, this type of chart gonna help us to find the outliers, especially on the upper and on the lower whiskers. Alright, so that's all about the box plot in Tableau. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the KPI charts, key performance indicator. We usually use it in order to analyze the performance of our business, whether it is succeeding or failing. Alright, so now let's go and build a KPI in order to track the performance of our sales in our business. So let's go and do that. As usual, we're going to go and get the subcategories to the rows. Let's take the sales as well to see the numbers. And then the next step, let's say that we want to check the sum of sales for each country. So let's go and grab the country field to the columns. And then the next step, we have to define the core of the KPI, the rule. When the sales is going to be considered as a success and when it's going to be considered as fail, or maybe in between. So what we have to do is now to go and create a new calculated field in order to define the KPI rule. So now let's go and call it KPI colors. So now by checking the data, let's say that if the sum of sales is higher than 50k, then it's going to be considered as a success. Or if we are talking about colors, it's going to be green. We're going to work with the if else statements. So we're going to check whether the sum of sales is higher than 50,000. Then what's going to happen? We're going to say it's green. So now the next step, we have to define the second rule. Let's say that if the sales is between 10k and 50k, this is gonna be medium, or let's say orange. So let's go and build that using else if the sum of sales less or equal 50k and the sum of sales, we are making like a range, is higher than 10k. Let me just make it a little bit bigger. Then what can happen? It's gonna be orange. Alright, then we have the third rule. If it's not in between or not higher than 50,000, then it's going to be less or equal to 10k. So what we're going to do at the end, we're going to say else it's going to be red. So that's it, let's end it. So this is our KPI rule in order to track the performance of the sales. So let's go and hit OK. And with that, we got a dimension here on the left side, the KPI colors. Let's go and grab it and put it on the colors. So now the next step, let's go and assign the correct color. Tableau got it almost correct. So let's edit the colors. The orange is orange, red is red, but the green is blue. So let's go and switch to that. And with that, we can immediately track the performance of the sales, where we can see immediately where we are performing good. So you can see those green numbers, or we are performing bad by the red numbers. But if you saw any KPI dashboard, you will see that they are using a lot of shapes. So now instead of those numbers, let's go and get shapes assigned to those three values. So that means we're going to go to the marks over here and switch it to shapes. Now things are ugly currently, so let's go and take the sum of sales to the details. And then we're going to take the KPI color to define the shape of our visual. So with that, we got different shapes for each level of our KPI, but I would like to change it. So let's go to the shapes over here. And then let's go to the default and then switch it to KPI. So now we have better icons for our KPI. Let's go and switch stuff. So green, it's going to be this icon. Orange, it's going to be this. And then the red, it's going to be the red one. All right, so that's it. Let's go and hit OK. And now we can go over here and make it entire view. And as well change the size of our KPI. And with that, we got a nice KPI where we can see immediately where we are doing good and where we are doing bad. So this is how we can create KPI in Tableau. Alright, so now we're going to learn how to combine a KPI together with any other type of charts, like for example, the bar charts. So now we're going to go and build view in order to compare 2 years. In order to do that, we're going to get the same stuff. So let's get the subcategories to the rows. And then here we have the sales of 2022. Move it to the columns over here. So with that, we got our bar chart, but I would like to move it from automatic to bar in order to make everything stable and not later break in our visualization. So the next step, I would like to go and add as well the coloring. So let's take the sum of sales 22 and put it in the colors. And now the next step, let's take the 2021 as a reference inside our view. So let's move it to details and then let's go to the axis, right click on it and let's add a reference line. So here we would like to have the value of 2021 for each category. So let's switch it to per cell and then select the 2021 and then let's go and hide the labels. This is only customizations. Then let's move it to a little bit heavier line and then increase the opacity and as well change it to orange. So that's it. Let's go and hit OK. So now in order to see the data better, let's switch it from standard to entire view. And with that, we got a reference from the previous year and the bars are the current year. So with that, you can see quickly the differences between the 2 years. But we are not done yet. This is only the bar chart. Now we have to go and add a KPI for it. So here we have to define the rule of the KPI, and this time it's going to be easy. If the current year is less than the previous year, then it's going to be red. If it is more or equal, it's going to be green. So let's go and define this rule. As usual, we're going to go and create a new calculated field. We're going to call it KPI colors. So now we're going to go and define the rule. We're going to use as well the if else statement. So if the sum of sales of 2021 is higher or equal to the sum of sales of 2021, then we are safe. It's going to be green. Let me just make it a little bit bigger in order to see everything. But if the condition is not fulfilled, what's going to happen? we will have bad performance. So it's going to be else, red, and then ends. So this is our rule. Let's go and hit OK. So now for the KPI, we need another chart inside this view, but since it is like a dimension, if we bring it to the view, it will not split it to two different visuals. So in order to generate another chart, we will use the trick of using the average of 0. So we have to create a placeholder, average of 0, and with that, as you can see, we will get a new chart on the right side. So in this measure, we will go and configure our KPI. Let's go and switch to this marks, and now we're going to switch it from bars to shapes. It's like we are building any other KPI, and I will go and get rid of those informations. And now we're going to go and get our new calculated field, the KPI rule, and put it on the shapes. And next we're going to go and define the shapes of our KPI. So let's click on shapes, and let's say if it's green, then it's going to go up, and if it's red, it's going to go down. That's it for the shapes. Click OK. And as well, we want to change the coloring of those stuff. So let's take the KPI colors, hold control and put it on the colors, and let's go and assign it. So edit colors, green gonna be green and red gonna be red. So that's it. Click OK. So now we have our KPI on the right side. So we can go and make it a little bit bigger in order to see the shapes. So now we have two different charts. The next step, we're gonna go and use the dual axis, and that's because they have different shapes. So let's go to the right side and have the dual axis, and as usual, we're going to go and synchronize the axis and remove one of them. Let's go to the average as well, and then go and disable show header. With that, we hide it. So with us, we got the two KPIs on top of each others, but still here we have an issue. As you can see, the icons of the KPIs are exactly on the top of the edge of the bars. And that's because everything is starting from 0, and we have here the average of 0. So now what we're going to do, we're going to move it a little bit to the left side using the negative values. So let's go to the average of 0 and switch it from 0 to minus 10k. So with that, we can see our KPI is perfectly on the left side of the bars, and we can see immediately where we are doing bad. So here we can see that almost all of the subcategories are doing great. So we have all those green icons, but only two, the envelopes and the machines, are doing bad. And that's because the sales of the current year is less than the sales of the previous year. So with that, we have learned how to combine the KPI charts with any other chart. It should not be a bar chart. It could be an area or a line chart. Okay, so now we're going to create bands in Tableau. They are those big numbers that you can see usually in KPIs or in dashboards, where you're gonna see the total of something, like the total of sales, the totals of profit, how many customers do we have inside our datasets. So it's very common, and you can see it almost in each dashboard. So let's go and create it. So what we're gonna do first, we have to go and switch our visual from automatic to a text. Since we are working with text, there is no charts or any visuals. So let's take the sales and put it on the text. So now with that, we got one number without any charts, only one big number, the total sales of our data. Now we can go and split it by a dimension like a country. So let's take the country, put it in the columns. So now we can see the total sales of each country. So now, since we are talking about bands, those numbers should be really big. So in order to change that, let's go to the text over here, click on those 3 points, and then let's go to the cells and make it really big. So we're gonna go to the size over here. Let's take, for example, 22 and make it bold. And then you can check by hitting apply the size of those numbers. They looks good. So now let's go and hit OK, and let's make the alignment correct. So let's have everything centered. So on the horizontal and the vertical. So now the next step, we can go and change the format of those numbers. So let's go to the sum of sales over here and go to format. And then we're going to go to the numbers over here in order to change the format. Let's go for custom. So there is no decimal places. Let's make it 0. And then let's say we're going to display the unit as 1,000, as a K. And then we can add the $sign on the prefix over here. So let's go and do that. So that's all about the format. Let's go and close it from here. And now with that, we have created really nice bands for our dashboards. We can go and make it a little bit bigger in order to see those numbers. And now you might say, you know what, I would like to have those texts beneath the numbers, not on top of it. So in order to do that, what we're gonna do, we're gonna take the country again and let's put it to the text. And with that, we're gonna get the text below it, but of course we have to make it really small. So let's go to the text over here, then to the 3 points, and then let's go to the country, remove the bold, and let's move it, for example, like 12. All right, so now let's go and hit apply in order to check the format. So now as you can see, we got those small text beneath those numbers, but we can go and as well reduce it to 10 to make it really small beneath those big numbers. So now let's go and hit OK, and with that we got really nice small text below our numbers. But we still have an issue where we have the header informations. In order to remove it, just go to any values like Germany over here, right click on it and disable the show header. And with that we got a really nice pans where the text is below the big numbers. So as you can see here, we didn't use any type of charts, we just used the text in Tableau. Now we're gonna learn how to build a funnel chart in Tableau. Funnel charts are really great in order to show the progress of your data through different stages. So let's see how we can build that. Let's take the sales and put it in the rows. And now we want to see how the sales are progressing through the different subcategories. So let's take the subcategories from the products and put it to the colors. Now the next step, we would like to change the size of those blocks based on the sum of sales. So in order to do that, let's take the sum of sales by holding Control and put it to the size. And now let's go and switch it from standard to entire view in order to see the size of each block. And now we need to form the shape of the funnel. In order to do that, we're gonna go and sort the data descending. So the biggest one gonna be on top and then we go to the small. So in order to do that, let's go to the subcategory over here, right click on it and let's go and sort it. And then we have to change the sort by to a field, then move it to descending, and that's it. As you can see from the background, we have now the shape of the funnel. So now the next and as well the important step in the funnel chart, we want to show the percentage of total for each block. So in order to do that, let's take as well the sum of sales and put it to the text. And with that we got the total sales for each subcategory, but we don't want that, we want the percent of total. In order to do that, right click on it and let's go to quick table calculations. And then let's pick the percent of total. Great, so now we have those percentages on the funnels, which is very nice in the funnel charts. Let's go and add as well the text of the subcategory. So let's take the subcategory and put it to the labels. So now we can go and customize our view a little bit where we say, okay, let's put the text of the subcategory on top of the sales. So switch the order and then let's go and change the labels and make the subcategory a little bit bigger and bold. So let's hit OK. And as well, we can go and remove those grid lines. So right click over here to the formats. Let's go to the lines and then let's go to the zeros over here and make it none. Alright, so that is more clean. What we can do, we can add the category to the filter. So let's go to the category, show it as a filter. And with that, we can go and select specific category in order to see the data. So with that, we get like less blocks inside the funnel chart, or you can go and add all of them. So that's it. This is how you can create funnel chart in Tableau in order to track and check the progress of your data. In our KPI dashboards, we can add stuff like a progress bar. Let's see how we can build that in Tableau. So now let's go and get a dimension like the country to the rows. And then we're gonna go and track the progress of our sales as a progress bar. So in each progress bar, you have like 2 bars. The one in the background for the 100% and then your actual progress. So that means we need 2 bar charts. Let's stick with the first one and switch it to bar, and as well let's show the text, but now instead of the total sales, let's go and switch it to a percent of total. So let's go and switch our sales to a quick table calculations to a percent of total. Alright, so in the next step we want to add the background color. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna add our placeholder average 0. So now the next step we're gonna go and add the background bar. So in order to do that, let's go and add our placeholder. It's gonna be the 1 average of 1. So now we got our background on the right side, and on the left side we're gonna get the actual progress. Let's go and merge them together using the dual axis. So right click on the right one and then move it to dual axis. Okay, so as usual, we're gonna go and synchronize those two axes, and let's go and make it a little bit bigger in order to see the bars. So now we can see that the average, the background is in the front. In order to switch that, let's go to the axis of the average, right click on it, and then here we can say move marks to the back. Alright, so now in the next step, in order to get the effect of the progress bar, we have to change the coloring of the background. So let's go to the colors, edit, and then let's select the average, and let's take the blue. Let's select something lighter, so let's take a light blue, apply, okay. Alright, so with this we get the effect of the progress bar. Let's go and hide a few stuff, like for example this X over here, and as well let's hide those numbers on the background. So let's go to the labels and hide them. Alright, so that's it. This is how you can create a really nice progress bar in Tableau, where you can put it inside your dashboards. Alright everyone, so I hope you enjoyed this marathon of building those beautiful charts in Tableau. So with that you got really solid knowledge and tools in order to build any content in Tableau. And I hope really that you were practicing with me during this session. If you haven't done it, go back to the start and start practicing step by step for each chart, because by just sitting and watching me building those charts, I don't really think it's gonna help you a lot by improving your knowledge about Tableau. And as well, this can open your fantasy and your innovations in order to bring maybe different charts to Tableau, and as well share your knowledge like I'm doing now. Alright, so that's all about the charts of Tableau. And if you like my content and you want to support the channel, then I really appreciate it if you support, like, and comment. This really gonna help the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.